The fire becomes light, Anandmay Ma. Anandmay Ma was one of the greatest spiritual mystics of modern India. She was born on 30th April 1896 in Keura village, present-day Bangladesh. Her birth name was Nirmala Sundari Devi. From childhood itself, she appeared different from ordinary children. People noticed deep silence, unusual peace, divine joy, spontaneous spiritual absorption. Even as a little girl, she would enter states of meditation naturally. She remained calm and detached. She radiated extraordinary purity. Many people around her felt she was born already spiritually awakened. Meaning of the name Anandmay. The name Anandmay means filled with bliss, permeated with divine joy. Ananda is bliss, and Mai, filled with the name, perfectly reflected her presence. People who sat near her often experienced peace, silence, tears of devotion, inner stillness, inexplicable joy. Her consciousness. Anandmay Ma did not consider herself merely an individual person. She often spoke from a state of universal awareness. She used to say, "This body has never been born." Her consciousness appeared beyond ego, beyond personal identity, beyond religion and division. Many devotees felt that Ma existed in continuous God consciousness, uninterrupted divine awareness. She moved naturally between silence, devotion, meditation, laughter, and compassion. She spoke profound spiritual truths. Spiritual experiences of Ma. From a young age, spiritual states happened spontaneously to her. She experienced samadhi, divine absorption, ecstatic devotion, inner mantras arising naturally. Yogic mudras without learning them. A remarkable thing about her life was she had no formal guru in the conventional sense. Her spiritual awakening unfolded naturally from within. At times, her body would become motionless. She remained absorbed in deep meditation for hours. People saw divine radiance in her presence. Many saints and scholars who met her believed she was not practicing spirituality. She was living in constant union with it. Her mission. Anandmay Ma did not establish a political movement or social revolution. Her mission was subtler and deeper. Her presence itself transformed people. She traveled across India spreading spiritual awakening, devotion, remembrance of God, inner purity, universal love. People from all backgrounds came to her. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, scholars, villagers, saints, political leaders, ordinary seekers. She never encouraged division. She emphasized all paths sincerely followed lead towards the divine consciousness. Teachings of Ma. Her teachings were simple yet extremely profound. Constant remembrance of God. She taught, remember God in all activities, chant the divine name, keep awareness sacred. According to Ma, the mind becomes peaceful when connected to the divine repeatedly. Truthfulness. She emphasized purity in speech, honesty, sincerity. Truth was not only speaking facts, truth meant alignment of thought, word, and action. Self-control. She encouraged moderation in food, speech, desires, emotions, not suppression but conscious balance. Silence. Ma valued silence deeply. She believed silence reveals the nature of mind, inner awareness, deeper truth. The silence itself taught people. See God in all. One of her deepest teaching was, everything belongs to the divine. She taught, do not hate, do not divide humanity, respect all beings. Spiritual practice with simplicity. She never insisted everyone become monks. She taught, household life can also become spiritual. Work can become worship. Daily life can become meditation. Her principles, universal love, love beyond religion, caste and status. Inner purity, purify thoughts, emotions and intentions. Discipline, spiritual life requires regularity, awareness and patience. Surrender, trust the divine movement of life. Compassion, serve others naturally and gently. Experience of devotee around Ma. Many devotees describe extraordinary experiences near Ma. Some felt sudden peace, disappearance of anxiety, tears without reason, deep meditation arising naturally, healing of emotional suffering. Others felt timelessness in her presence, inner silence, expansion of consciousness. Many scholars and saints who met her said she radiated a rare spiritual force difficult to explain intellectually. Yet Ma herself remained extremely humble. Important spiritual understanding from Ma. Ma repeatedly emphasized, God is not far away. The divine is within consciousness, within awareness, within every being. She taught, The restless mind hides the peace already present inside us. What is more important for mankind, according to Ma? Inner peace. Without inner peace, knowledge becomes dangerous, power becomes destructive, and society becomes restless. Purity of mind. Humanity must learn calmness, kindness, and self-awareness. Remembrance of the sacred. Modern life becomes empty when disconnected from wisdom, compassion, silence, and truth. Unity of humanity. Ma saw humanity as one family. She believed divisions are created by ego. Consciousness itself is universal. Balance between material and spiritual life. She never rejected worldly life completely. She taught, use the world wisely, but do not lose your inner center. Ma's presence in modern times. Even today, Ma inspires seekers because she represented living peace. She transcended religious boundaries. She embodied simplicity and bliss. Her life reminds humanity spirituality is not escape from life, it is awakening within life itself. A simple essence of Ma's teaching: the divine already exists within you. Calm the mind, purify the heart, remember the sacred, and the inner light begins to reveal itself. The fire becomes light. Meher Baba. Meher Baba was one of the most unique spiritual masters of the modern world. He was known for divine love, deep compassion, simplicity, silence, and spiritual universality. Millions remember him not only for his teachings but for the extraordinary peace felt in his presence. He did not establish a religion. He awakened hearts towards love, truth, selflessness, God realization. His life became a bridge between spirituality and humanity, silence and wisdom, love and surrender. Birth and early life. Meher Baba was born as Mehraban Shahryar Irani, born on 25th Feb 1894 in Pune, Maharashtra, India. He belonged to the Zoroastrian Parsi family. His father, Shahryar Irani, was deeply spiritual and mystical by nature. As a child, Mehraban was intelligent, cheerful, loving, energetic, fond of music and poetry. During his youth, he studied in Pune, loved literature and sports, appeared outwardly like an ordinary young man, but destiny was preparing him for a profound spiritual transformation. Meeting Hazrat Babajan, a turning point came when he met Hazrat Babajan, a great Muslim women saint living in Pune. One day, Babajan kissed Mehraban on the forehead. That moment transformed his consciousness completely. After this experience, he entered deep spiritual states. Worldly awareness changed drastically. Inner divine awakening intensified. For months, he moved through altered spiritual consciousness. This meeting is considered the beginning of his God realization journey. The 5 perfect masters. Meher Baba later came under the guidance of 5 great spiritual masters: Hazrat Babajan, Sai Baba of Shirdi, Upasani Maharaj, Tajuddin Baba, and Narayan Maharaj. These masters shaped and stabilized his spiritual consciousness. Among them, Upasani Maharaj played a particularly important role. Becoming Meher Baba. The name Meher Baba means compassionate father. Meher means compassion and Baba means father. His followers lovingly called him Beloved Baba, Avatar Meher Baba. Many devotees believed him to be the avatar, the divine repeatedly incarnating to awaken humanity. Meher Baba's silence. One of the most remarkable aspects of his life was his silence. On 10 July 1925, Meher Baba stopped speaking completely and he remained silent for 44 years until his passing in 1969. He never uttered another word. Why did Meher Baba remain silent? According to Baba, humanity speaks too much but understands too little. His silence symbolized inner truth beyond words, the limitations of intellectual noise, direct spiritual communication. He communicated through hand gestures, alphabet boards, later through gestures interpreted by disciples. Yet devotees often felt his silence spoke more deeply than ordinary speech. The meaning of Baba's silence. His silence teaches truth is experienced inwardly. Not everything sacred can be expressed through language. Silence calms the ego, purifies the mind, and deepens awareness. Baba's life itself became a message. Real spirituality is lived, not merely spoken. Meher Baba's mission. Meher Baba traveled extensively across India, Europe, and America. His mission was to awaken love for God, unity among humanity, selfless service, inner transformation. He emphasized all religions are the path towards the same truth. Love is greater than dogma. Humanity is one family. Baba's love. The greatest thing people experienced around Meher Baba was unconditional love. Devotees described overwhelming peace, tears of devotion, deep emotional healing, inner silence. Baba loved the poor, the children, the sick, and the mentally disturbed, ordinary people. He personally served the lepers and marginalized people, suffering individuals. His love was active compassion. His teachings. Baba's teachings were simple, universal, and profound. Love God. His central teaching, the ultimate purpose of life is to love God. But loving God meant loving all the beings, serving humanity, and purifying the heart. Don't hurt others, he emphasized. Kindness, compassion, honesty, gentleness. He discouraged hatred, ego, selfishness, and violence. Simplicity. Baba lived with simplicity despite being revered by thousands. He taught spiritual life does not require display. Humility is greatness, and simplicity purifies the heart. Selfless service. Helping others was, for Baba, direct worship of God. He believed God exists in every being. Control of ego. According to Baba, ego separates humans from divine truth. The spiritual path involves surrender, humility, love, reduction of selfishness, silence, and inner awareness. Baba's silence itself became a teaching. He showed constant mental noise creates suffering. Peace comes through inner stillness. Baba and consciousness. Meher Baba explained consciousness in spiritual stages. He described evolution of consciousness, journey from ignorance towards God realization. He believed the soul evolves through many experiences. The ultimate goal is union with divine reality. According to Baba, God alone truly exists, but humanity forgets this truth due to illusion and ego. Meher Baba's Samadhi. After leaving his body on 31st Jan 1969, Meher Baba's body was placed in his Samadhi at Meherabad near Ahmednagar, Maharashtra. Today it is one of the most peaceful spiritual places in India. The peace and tranquility of the Samadhi. Visitors often describe Meher Baba's Samadhi as silent, serene, deeply calming, and spiritually uplifting. The atmosphere there carries simplicity, sacredness, stillness. People from all religions visit not merely to worship, but to experience inner peace. Many devotees sit silently there for hours. The Samadhi reflects Baba's own life, simplicity, silence, love, and inner presence. The universal nature of Baba. Baba never tried to create division. He respected Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, all sincere spiritual paths. He emphasized truth is one and paths are many. What is most important for humanity according to Baba? Love, not possessive love, but selfless love, compassionate love, divine love. Inner transformation. Humanity must purify thoughts, reduce ego, become truthful, and become compassionate. Silence. Modern humanity is overwhelmed by noise, fear, and mental restlessness. Baba's silence reminds humanity peace is found within. Unity. He believed humanity is one family. Divisions are created by ignorance. The essence of Baba. Meher Baba's life can be summarized in a few sacred qualities. Love without condition, silence without emptiness, simplicity without poverty, and grace without pride, presence without words. A simple reflection. In the silence of the heart, love begins to speak. When ego becomes quiet, grace becomes visible. Om Shri Sai Ram. The fire becomes light. Ramana Maharshi, the silent sage of Arunachal, among the great realized masters of modern India. Ramana Maharshi shines as a beacon of silence, self-awareness, and direct realization. He did not establish a new religion. He did not seek followers, fame, or power. His greatest teaching was simple. Know who you truly are. Through silence, presence, compassion, and self-inquiry, he transformed countless seekers across the world. Birth of Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi was born as Venkatraman Iyer, December 30th, 1879. His parents belonged to a traditional South Indian Brahmin family. As a child, Venkatraman appeared ordinary, playful, healthy and quiet, and not especially scholarly. Yet deep within him, a silent spiritual destiny was unfolding. The awakening, enlightened day. At the age of 16, a sudden and life-changing event occurred in Madurai. One day, while alone in a room, an intense fear of death suddenly overtook him. Instead of running away from the fear, he turned inward. He lay down and began observing what is death, who dies, is the body truly I? He enacted death consciously, body lying still, breath slowed, limbs unmoving. Then a profound realization arose within him. The body may die, but the true self is deathless. At that moment, his ego dissolved into pure awareness. This was not intellectual understanding, it was direct realization. From then onwards, fear disappeared, attachment reduced, unbroken peace remained. This became his enlightenment. Attraction towards Arunachala. Even before enlightenment, the sacred name Arunachala deeply moved him. After realization, an irresistible inner call drew him there. He quietly left home, leaving behind a short note saying, "I have gone in search of my father." He travelled to Tiruvannamalai, where the sacred Arunachala hill stands. For Ramana, Arunachala was not merely a mountain, it was the living form of Shiva, the silent absolute truth. Early years in Arunachala. After arriving, he entered deep states of absorption and silence. He spent time in temple halls, caves, underground shrines, mountain shelters. He often remained motionless, silent, detached from the body. Sometimes insects bit him, children mocked him, or people neglected him, but he remained absorbed in self-awareness. Gradually, devotees recognized an extraordinary peace radiated from him. Virupaksha cave and later at Skanda Ashram on Arunachala hill, seekers slowly began gathering around him. Though he spoke little, his silence itself became teaching. People experienced peace, stillness, clarity, and inward transformation simply by sitting near him. This became known as silent transmission. His mother and transformation. Initially, his mother wished him to return home, but gradually she too became spiritually transformed in his presence. Later, she stayed with him in Arunachala. When she passed away, Ramana personally guided her consciousness peacefully through her final moments. Her samadhi later became the foundation for Sri Ramanashram. As devotees increased, an ashram naturally formed around him. People from all over the world came, seekers, scholars, saints, ordinary people, scientists, writers, and spiritual aspirants. Yet Ramana lived simply, eating simple food, helping in kitchen work, caring for animals, sitting with visitors, remaining humble and silent. He never claimed superiority. His experiences and presence. Many devotees describe extraordinary experiences, deep silence in his presence, disappearance of mental restlessness, spontaneous meditation, inner peace and reduction of fear. Animals to appear peaceful around him. He treated humans, cows, dogs, birds and monkeys with equal compassion. To him, the same consciousness existed in all beings. His core teaching, self-inquiry. Ramana Maharshi's central teaching was, "Who am I?" In Sanskrit, Atma Vichara, self-inquiry. He taught, instead of endlessly chasing thoughts, ask, "To whom does this thought arise?" The answer, "To me." Then inquire, "Who am I?" This inquiry turns attention inward towards the source of consciousness itself. What did he mean by I? Ramana Maharshi explained, the ordinary ego says, "I am the body, I am the mind, I am emotions, I am personality." But through inquiry, one discovers the true I is pure awareness beyond all temporary identities. His principles. Silence is powerful. True wisdom often arises in silence. The self is ever present. One does not become the self, one realizes what already exists. The ego is temporary. Suffering comes from mistakes, identification with ego. The world reflects the mind. Inner peace transforms perception. Compassion is natural. Separateness dissolves. Love naturally arises. Simplicity. Spirituality does not require complexity. His teachings in simple form: be still, Mental noise hides truth. Know thyself. The highest pilgrimage is inward. The heart is the center, not physical heart but spiritual awareness. There is no separation. The same consciousness shines in all. Surrender and inquiry lead to the same truth, whether through devotion or self-inquiry. The ego dissolves. His final days. In later years, Ramana developed cancer in his arm. Devotees begged him to heal himself. He calmly replied, "The body itself is a disease." Even in pain, he remained peaceful and compassionate. On April 14, 1950, he left the body in Tiruvannamalai. At the moment of his passing, many devotees reported seeing a brilliant light crossing the sky towards Arunachala. His final message, as devotees cried, "Bhagwan, do not leave us," Ramana replied, "Where can I go? I am here." This reflected his teaching. True consciousness is eternal and all-pervading. The essence of Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi brought spirituality back to its simplest and purest form. No complication, no display, no fear, only silence, awareness, inquiry, and realization. He showed humanity peace is not created, it is uncovered when the restless ego becomes quiet. What should we learn from him? Observe thoughts, do not blindly become them. Seek the source, go inward. Live simply, truth is simple. Reduce your ego, humility opens inner wisdom. Sit in silence, silence heals deeply. Be aware, awareness itself transforms life. Message. Ramana Maharshi did not ask humanity to escape the world. He asked humanity to discover who is experienced the world. His path is not based on blind belief, but direct inner observation. Quote, "The greatest pilgrimage is the journey from the restless mind to the silent self within." Om Shri Sai Ram. The fire becomes light. 3D mind, I am I. Spirituality and science, two wings of human evolution. What is spirituality? Spirituality is the study of one who is experiencing life. It is an inward journey from the mind to awareness, from personality to pure consciousness, from I am this body and mind to the direct realization of I am. Spirituality does not ask you to escape life. It asks you to understand life. It teaches love, compassion, awareness, silence, wisdom, self-inquiry, and the recognition that beneath all names and forms, there is one indivisible reality. What is science? Science is the systematic exploration of the universe through observation, experimentation, logic, and evidence. Science studies the external world. It seeks to understand matter, energy, life, the cosmos, the human body, the brain, and the laws that govern creation. Every scientific discovery expands our understanding of the magnificent intelligence expressed in nature. Science and spirituality are partners. Many people think science and spirituality are opposite paths. They are not. Science will ask, how does creation function? Spirituality will ask, who is the one experiencing creation? Science explores the universe. Spirituality explores the explorer. Science studies existence. Spirituality realizes the essence of existence. When these two meet, knowledge becomes wisdom. Consciousness and science. Modern science continues to reveal astonishing order throughout nature, from the movement of galaxies to the structure of the DNA, from the rhythm of the heartbeat to the communication between billions of neurons. Everything reflects extraordinary intelligence. The human brain receives, processes, remembers, and creates. The nervous system integrates countless signals every second. Our senses continuously gather information from the world. Science beautifully explains many of these mechanisms. Yet the simple fact of conscious experience. Our awareness that we are experiencing remains one of the deepest questions explored in neuroscience and philosophy. Science continues to investigate consciousness. Spirituality invites us to directly observe it. Together, they enrich our understanding. Consciousness in spiritual science. The sages throughout history pointed towards a simple discovery. Before every thought, before every emotion, before every identity, there is the silent knowing, I am. I am is not a belief. It is the immediate experience of being. When thoughts become quiet, awareness remains. When emotions change, awareness remains. When the body ages, awareness witnesses every stage. That silent witnessing presence is what many spiritual traditions call consciousness. My personal understanding. This is my humble personal understanding. My Guru, Sri Satya Sai Baba, encouraged me never to limit knowledge. He asked me to study every subject not merely for examinations but for understanding. Knowledge broadens vision. Every subject reveals another doorway into truth. In school, we study many disciplines. Mathematics develops logic, science develops observation, history teaches experience, literature cultivates empathy, music awakens sensitivity, art refines creativity, philosophy deepens inquiry. Later, we choose our profession, but life itself never asks only one subject. Life presents every subject simultaneously. That is why holistic learning becomes essential. Life is a 360-degree classroom. A degree many prepare us for a profession. Life prepares us for wisdom. Life will ask us to understand success and failure, joy and sorrow, health and illness, gain and loss, relationships, responsibility, service, love, and inner peace. To walk through life gracefully, we need qualities no examination alone can measure. We need awareness, courage, perseverance, determination, patience, compassion, integrity, discipline, humility, gratitude, faith, self-confidence, forgiveness, kindness, balance, emotional maturity, responsibility, inner silence, and continuous learning. These values transform knowledge into character. Character transforms intelligence into wisdom, and wisdom transforms life into fulfillment. The essence of life. Why are we born? Every tradition offers its own answer. My understanding is this: we are born to learn, to love, to grow, to discover who we truly are, to serve creation, to unfold the intelligence already present within us. Life is not merely about achieving success. Life is about awakening to our own deepest nature while contributing to the well-being of others. Intelligence and consciousness. The universe functions with astonishing order. The same intelligence that governs stars, forests, rivers, and living cells is reflected in every human being. We are expressions of that intelligence. We are participants in creation, capable of reason, compassion, creativity, and self-reflection. Recognizing this can inspire humility, responsibility, and reverence for life. Life in the present. The past has become memory. The future has not yet arrived. Life unfolds only in this moment. Like a river, existence flows continuously. When we resist the flow, suffering increases. When we become aware of the present moment, we respond with greater clarity. The present is where love is experienced. The present is where wisdom is practiced. The present is where life is actually lived. We are one human family. On the surface, we appear different. Different languages, different cultures, different religions, different professions, different appearances. Yet every human being longs for happiness, peace, love, belonging, and meaning. Recognizing our shared humanity nurtures compassion and cooperation. When we care for one another, we enrich the whole. The harmony of science and spirituality. Science gives humanity remarkable tools. Spirituality helps guide how those tools are used with wisdom, ethics, and compassion. Science without compassion can become dangerous. Spirituality without inquiry can become rigid. Together, They help us become both intelligent and wise. Together, they enrich humanity. Together, they illuminate the journey of self-discovery. May we continue to explore the universe with curiosity and explore ourselves with awareness. Both journeys lead us towards a deeper appreciation of life. 3 short stories. The Microscope and the Mirror. A young scientist spent years studying living cells through a microscope. One day, an old sage handed him a mirror. The scientist smiled. "I already study life." The sage replied, "Yes, the microscope reveals what life is made of. The mirror helps you discover who is looking." The scientist realized that both instruments reveal truth, one outwardly and one inwardly. The River and the Boat. A student asked, "Master, why does life feel difficult?" The master pointed towards the river. "The river never struggles to flow. Only the boat that refuses the current experiences suffering. Become aware. Stir wisely. Do not fight the river." The student understood that awareness brings balance even when the river is fast. The Library of Wisdom. A child entered a library filled with thousands of books. He asked, "Which is the greatest book?" The librarian smiled. "Read every book you can, but never forget to read the one book that travels everywhere with you." The child searched every shelf. Finally, he asked, "Where is it?" The librarian gently touched the child's heart. "Your own life, my child." Quotes. Science expands knowledge. Spirituality expands wisdom. The universe is explored through science, and the explorer is discovered through awareness. Knowledge fills the mind. Wisdom transforms the heart. Life is the greatest university. Every day is a new lesson. Character is the highest degree a human being can earn. Awareness transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary discoveries. Live fully in the present. It is the only place where life unfolds. We may appear different, yet we share one humanity. Let curiosity guide your learning and compassion guide your actions. The greatest discovery is not merely what exists in the universe, but how deeply we can understand ourselves. Science and spirituality are not rivals. Together, they illuminate the richness of human life. Every experience can become a teacher when met with awareness. Intelligence helps us build the world. Wisdom helps us care for it. The journey inward and the journey outward enrich one another. When knowledge and compassion walk together, humanity flourishes. Science and spiritual science. 2 journeys towards understanding. Science has countless branches and disciplines. Physics studies matter and energy. Chemistry studies substances and their transformations. Biology studies living organisms. Medicine studies the human body, health, disease and healing. Astronomy studies the universe. Engineering transforms scientific knowledge into practical creations. Every department exists because reality is vast. No single person can master everything. Therefore, humanity divides knowledge into specialized fields so that each seeker can study deeply and contribute to the welfare of all. A student chooses a field according to interest, aptitude, dedication and purpose. Some may choose it as a profession to earn a livelihood. Some choose it out of curiosity. Some are driven by the desire to solve problems. Some wish to relieve human suffering. Some simply fall in love with knowledge itself. Money may support a profession, but genuine science is sustained by curiosity, discipline, patience, and a sincere love of discovery. The greatest scientists have often been lifelong students. Every discovery opened the door to new questions. Knowledge expanded, and so did their humility. In this sense, a true scientist resembles a sage. A scientist patiently observes, questions, experiments, learns from mistakes, begins again, never stops learning. The lab becomes a place of contemplation. Observation becomes a form of meditation. Every experiment requires one-pointed attention, honesty and humility before truth. Medical science. Medical science contains many specialties. Cardiology studies the heart, Neurology studies the brain and the nervous system. Orthopedic studies bones and joints. Ophthalmology studies the eyes. Dermatology studies the skin. Psychiatry studies mental health. Many other branches study different systems of the body. Each specialist understands one aspect very deeply. Together, they contribute to understanding the remarkable complexity of the human body. Science studies the body through careful observation, measurement, and evidence. It continually refines its understanding as new evidence emerges. For many people, this profound order in nature inspires wonder and a deeper appreciation of life. Science as a path of wonder. My personal understanding is this: the deeper we study creation, the more we appreciate its extraordinary intelligence. Every living cell, every heartbeat, every neuron, every star, every galaxy invites us to wonder. For me, studying creation with full attention becomes a form of meditation. Every discovery inspires gratitude. Every mystery invites humility. Knowledge becomes a doorway to reverence. The spiritual scientist. Just as science explores the outer universe, spirituality explores the inner universe. A spiritual seeker observes thoughts, studies emotions, examines the ego, understands desires, recognizes fear, discovers compassion, practices awareness. The lab is one's own life. The instrument is attention. The experiment is daily living. The result is greater clarity, kindness, and inner freedom. The spiritual seeker does not reject science, nor does the scientist need to reject spirituality. One investigates the world, the other investigates the experiencer. Together, they enrich human understanding. Science and the Upanishads. Science will always ask, what is the universe made of? The Upanishad will ask, who is the one experiencing the universe? Science seeks knowledge through observation, experimentation, and reason. The Upanishads encourage inquiry into the nature of the self through reflection, contemplation, and direct experience. Their methods differ, their questions differ, yet both encourage sincere inquiry, intellectual honesty, and the willingness to learn. Both remind us that humility is essential because there is always more to discover. Poem: The Scientist and the Saint. One looked outward through a lens, one looked inward through the heart. One measured stars across the sky, and one discovered silent light. One searched in atoms, one searched in awareness. Both walked with patience, both bowed before truth. When wisdom and knowledge joined hands, humanity walked a little further. Science gave us understanding, compassion gave it direction. The universe smiled, for both journeys were born from the same longing to know, to understand, to awaken, and to serve. The Ribhu Gita, Consciousness and Creation. Ribhu Gita in brief. The Ribhu Gita is one of the profound Advaita Vedanta texts. It teaches that the ultimate reality is pure consciousness, infinite, indivisible, and beyond birth and death. Its central message is simple. There is only one reality. The individual self and the Supreme are not separate. The seeker is encouraged to abide in the direct awareness of I am, beyond all thoughts, names, forms, and identities. Consciousness. Consciousness is the light because of which every experience is known. Thoughts arise in it, emotions arise in it, the body functions within it. The universe is experienced through it. Without consciousness, nothing can be known. The mystery of creation. One of humanity's oldest questions is, if there was nothing, how did everything arise? Science continues to explore the origins of the universe through cosmology and physics. The Upanishads approach the question differently. They describe the universe as arising from the one ultimate reality, Brahman, the infinite intelligence that is the source of all existence. This is a philosophical and spiritual understanding rather than a scientific explanation. Intelligence and creation. My personal understanding is this: the extraordinary order and harmony of the universe point towards an immeasurable intelligence beyond human imagination. Every galaxy, every atom, every living cell, every heartbeat, every law of nature reflects profound wisdom. Creation is not random chaos but a magnificent expression of intelligence unfolding in countless forms. Thought and reality. Thought is a remarkable power. Every invention, every poem, every bridge, every hospital, every work of art began as a thought in someone's mind before becoming part of the world. In this sense, thought has the power to shape human reality through intention, understanding, effort, and action. Spirituality, we may contemplate that our individual minds participate in a greater intelligence from which all life emerges. We are expressions of the consciousness. According to Advaita Vedanta, we are not separate from the source of existence. Our deepest nature is not limited to a body, mind, or personality. We are expressions of the one consciousness appearing through countless forms. To know this directly is the essence of self-realization. Know yourself and you know the universe. It is I am I. Intelligence is I. The creation is I am. So the creator and the creation are I am I. The fire becomes light. A story. Opportunity knocks but once. A long time ago, in an ancient Greek city, there stood a statue called Opportunity. Every bit of it has vanished now, but an epigram describing the statue still exists. The epigram is in the form of a conversation with a traveler. What is your name, O statue? I am called Opportunity. Who made you? The sculptor. Why are you in your toes? To show that I stay but a moment. Why do you have wings on your feet? To show how quickly I pass by. But why is your hair so long on your forehead? So that men may seize me when they meet me. Why then is your head so bald behind? To show that once I have passed, I cannot be caught. Opportunity must be seized by the forelock. Once an opportunity has passed, there is no recalling it. This is one of the wisdoms, and I have taken this story from the 100 Inspiring Stories of the author Francis Xavier. The fire becomes light. Pasaidan. आता विश्वात्मके देवे येणे वाग्यज्ञ तोषावे तोषोनी मज द्यावे पसायदान हे जे खळांची व्यंकटी सांडो तया सत्कर्मी रती वाढो भूता परस्परे पडो मैत्र जीवांचे दुरितांचे तिमिर जाओ विश्व स्वधर्म सूर्ये पाहो जो जे वांचिल तो ते लाहो प्राणी जात वर्षत सकळ मंगळी ईश्वर निष्ठांची मांदियाळी अनवरत भूमंडळी भेटतू भूता चला कल्पतरूंचे आरव चेतना चिंतामणींचे गाव बोलते जे अर्णव पियुषाचे चंद्रमे जे अलांछन मार्तंड ते तापहीन ते सर्वाही सदा सज्जन सोयरे होतू किंबहुना सर्वसुखी पूर्ण होऊनी तिही लोकी भजी जो आदिपुरुखी अखंडित आणि ग्रंथोपजीविये विशेषी लोकीये दृष्टादृष्ट विजये होआवेजी तेत म्हणे श्री विश्वेश्वराओ हा होईल दान पसाओ येणे बरे ज्ञानदेवो सुखिया झाला आता विश्वात्मके देवे येणे वाग्यज्ञ तोषावे तोषोनी मज द्यावे पसाय दान हे मे द सेल्फ ऑफ द युनिवर्स be pleased with the sacrifice of word and bestow his grace on me. जे खळांची व्यंकटी सांडो तया सत्कर्मी रती वाढो भूता परस्परे पडो मैत्र जीवांचे. May the sinners no longer commit evil deeds. May their desire to do good increase and may all beings live in harmony with one another. दुरितांचे तिमिर जाओ विश्व स्वधर्म सूर्य पाहो जो जे वांछिल तो ते लाहो प्राणी जात. May the darkness of the sin disappear. May the world see the rising of the sun of righteousness and may the desires of all creatures be satisfied. वर्षत सकळ मंगळी ईश्वरनिष्ठांची मांदियाळी अनवरत भूमंडळी भेटतू या भूता. May everyone keep the company of saints devoted of God who will shower their blessings on them. चला कल्पतरूचे आरव चेतना चिंतामणींचे गाव बोलते जे अर्णव पियुषाचे. Saints are walking gardens filled with wish-fulfilling trees. They are living villages of gems. Their words are like oceans of nectar. चंद्रमे जे अलांछन मार्तंड ते तापहीन ते सर्वाही सदा सज्जन सोयरे होतु. They are moons without blemish and suns without heat. May the saints be friends of all people. किंबहुना सर्वसुखी पूर्ण होनी तिही लोकी भजिजो आदिपुरुखी अखंडित. May all beings in all the worlds be filled with joy and may they worship God forever. आणि ग्रंथोपजीविये विशेषी लोकीये दृष्टादृष्ट विजयी होआवेजी. May all those for whom this book is their very life, their essence, be filled with success in this world and the next. तेथ म्हणे श्री विश्वेश्वराव हा होईल दान पसाओ येणे वरे ज्ञानदेवो सुखी हा झाला. Then Nivrittinath Maharaj, the guru of Sant Shri Jnaneshwar, the great master, said that blessings will be granted. This brought great joy to Sant Jnaneshwar. Om Shri Sai Ram. Sarvadharma Prarthana. Om Tat Satchi Narayana Tu, Purushottama Guru Tu, Siddha Buddha Tu, Skanda Vinayaka, Savita Pavaka Tu, Brahma Majja Tu, Yahova Shakti Tu, Yeshu Pita Prabhu Tu, Rudra Vishnu Tu, Rama Krishna Tu, Rahima Tao Tu, Vasudeva Gobishwa Rupa Tu, Chidananda Hari Tu, Advitiya Tu, Akala Nirbhaya, Atmalinga Shivatu, Sai Atmalinga Shivatu. Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shri Sai Ram. The fire becomes light. Sri Vedvyasa, the eternal sage who gave knowledge to humanity. Whenever the light of wisdom begins to fade, a great soul appears to illuminate the world. Among the greatest sages ever to walk upon the earth stands Bhagavan Sri Vedvyasa, the compiler of the Vedas, the author of the Mahabharata, the composer of the Brahma Sutras, and one of the greatest spiritual visionaries in human history. His life was not merely a journey of scholarship. It was a journey of divine realization, compassion, and the preservation of eternal wisdom for future generations. Birth of Vedvyasa. Long ago on the banks of the sacred river Yamuna lived a humble woman named Satyavati. One day the great sage Maharshi Parashar crossed the river in a boat. Recognizing her purity and her destiny, he blessed her. From this divine union was born an extraordinary child on a small island in the river. Because he was born on the island, he was called Dvaipayana. His complexion was dark like rain-filled clouds, so he became known as Krishna Dwapayana. Immediately after his birth, the child displayed extraordinary spiritual power. He assured his mother that he would return whenever she remembered him, and then departed into the forest to live the life of a sage. Childhood and education. Unlike ordinary children, Vyasa's classroom was nature itself. The Himalayas became his university. The rivers became his teachers. The forests became his meditation halls. The stars became his companions. He studied under many great rishis and mastered the four Vedas, Vedangas, Upanishads, yoga, philosophy, dharma, astronomy, grammar, music, medicine, ethics and meditation. Years of deep tapasya purified his mind until knowledge flowed effortlessly from within. For Vyasa, learning was never for fame or power. Learning was a sacred responsibility to preserve truth for humanity. The Enlightenment. Through intense meditation in the Himalayas, Vyasa realized the supreme reality. He experienced that the same divine consciousness shines in every living being. He saw that the entire universe is one family connected by one eternal consciousness. Knowledge became compassion, wisdom became service, and realization became his life's mission. Dividing the Vedas. As humanity entered the age of Kali Yuga, Vyasa understood that people would gradually lose the capacity to memorize the vast body of Vedic knowledge. Out of compassion, he divided the single Veda into 4 parts so that future generations could preserve and study them. He entrusted them to his disciples. For this monumental contribution, he came to be known as Ved Vyasa, the one who arranged and compiled the Vedas. The Mahabharata. Vyasa observed that many people could not understand the highly philosophical language of the Vedas. He therefore composed an epic that would teach eternal values through the lives of ordinary men and women. Thus was born the Mahabharata, the longest epic ever written, containing over 100,000 verses. It teaches dharma, duty, truth, courage, compassion, leadership, sacrifice, karma, devotion and self-realization. Within this epic shines the jewel of the world, spirituality, the Bhagavad Gita, the timeless dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Tradition says that Lord Ganesha himself served as the divine scribe while Vyasa dictated the epic. The Puranas. Vyasa then composed and organized the great Puranas. These narratives preserved history, cosmology, philosophy, devotion, ethics, and the lives of saints, making profound spiritual truths accessible to everyone. The Brahma Sutras. Seeking to express the essence of Vedanta in concise form, Vyasa composed the Brahma Sutras. These aphorisms became one of the foundational texts of Indian philosophy and inspired generations of great scholars. The Bhagavad Purana. Although he had completed many monumental works, Vyasa still felt an inner emptiness. The divine sage Narada visited him and explained that knowledge alone was not enough. The heart also longs for devotion. Inspired by Narada's guidance, Vyasa composed the Srimad Bhagavatam, celebrating divine love, devotion, compassion, and the life of Lord Krishna. Only then did profound peace arise within him. His teachings. Ved Vyasa taught humanity. Knowledge without humility becomes arrogance. Power without righteousness becomes destruction. Wealth without compassion becomes bondage. Religion without love becomes ritual. The highest purpose of education is the awakening of wisdom. The purpose of wisdom is to know one's true self. Vyasa played a central role in preserving the Kuru dynasty. Through his sons and descendants, the great events of the Mahabharata unfolded. His own son, Shukadeva, became one of India's greatest enlightened sages and narrated the Bhagavad Purana to King Parikshit. Thus wisdom flowed from father to son and from generation to generations. His contribution to humanity. Very few individuals have influenced civilization as deeply as Ved Vyasa. His contribution include compilation of the 4 Vedas, compositions of the Mahabharata, preservation of the Bhagavad Gita, composition and organization of the Puranas, authorship of the Brahma Sutras, inspiration for countless philosophical traditions, preservation of India's spiritual heritage for thousands of years. His work continues to guide seekers, scholars, saints, and ordinary people across the world. The final years, according to sacred tradition, Ved Vyasa did not seek fame or royal honor. He continued living as a humble sage, immersed in meditation and guiding sincere seekers. Many traditions regard him as one of the Chiranjeevis, the immortal sages, whose spiritual presence continues to bless humanity, whether understood literally or symbolically. This reflects the enduring influence of his wisdom, which remains alive through his teachings. Conclusion. The story of Ved Vyasa is not merely the biography of one remarkable individual. It is a story of humanity's quest for truth. He transformed knowledge into wisdom. He transformed wisdom into compassion. He transformed compassion into scriptures that continue to illuminate the world. As long as the Vedas are chanted, as long as the Bhagavad Gita is studied, as long as the Mahabharata inspires humanity, the light of Sri Ved Vyasa will never fade. He remains the eternal teacher whose words continue to awaken countless hearts. May the wisdom of Sri Ved Vyasa inspire us to seek truth, live with compassion, and realize the divine within ourselves. Om Shri Ved Vyasaya Namaha. The fire becomes light. Mahabharata, the great battle within. The spiritual study of the human body, mind and life. Mind. What is the Mahabharata? The word Mahabharata may be understood as the great story of Bharata, the immense epic of a civilization, a family, a kingdom, and humanity itself. But spiritually, the Mahabharata can be contemplated as something even closer. It is a story happening inside us. Kurukshetra is not merely a battlefield on the earth. Every human mind becomes a Kurukshetra whenever truth and falsehood, wisdom and attachment, courage and fear, self-mastery and desire confront one another. The body is the field, the mind is filled with competing forces, the senses pull outward, desires demand satisfaction, memory carries old wounds and attachments. Intelligence tries to discriminate, conscience speaks quietly. And in the center of this inner battlefield stands the bewildered human being asking, "What should I do?" That is Arjuna's question, and therefore Arjuna is also us. The body as Kshetra, the field. The Bhagavad Gita gives us one of the most important keys to this interpretation. This body is called the Kshetra, the field. Bhagavad Gita says, the body, mind, organism is a field in which experiences arise. Thoughts arise here, desires arise here, fears arise here, love arises here, anger arises here, knowledge arises here. The Mahabharata can therefore be studied as a magnificent dramatization of what happens within this Kshetra. The outer war becomes a mirror for the inner war. Dhritarashtra, the blind man of attachment. Dhritarashtra is born blind. Spiritually, his blindness can represent the mind blinded by attachment. He knows many of Duryodhana's actions are wrong, yet his attachment to his son repeatedly weakens his judgment. This is psychologically profound. We too often know what is right, yet attachment says, my desire, my family, my status, my success, my opinion, my possession, my identity. When attachment becomes stronger than discrimination, intelligence becomes blind. Thus, Dhritarashtra can symbolize the condition in which we possess knowledge but fail to live according to it. Gandhari, voluntary blindness. Gandhari covers her eyes after marrying the blind Dhritarashtra. Symbolically, she can represent another human tendency, choosing not to see what we are capable of seeing. There is physical blindness, but there is also psychological blindness. Sometimes truth is before us and we cover our inner eyes because accepting it would disturb our attachments. Spiritual growth begins when we stop asking, what do I want to be true? And begin asking, what is true? The Kauravas, the multiplication of uncontrolled tendencies. The 100 Kaurava brothers can be contemplated as the multitude of uncontrolled tendencies generated within the mind. One desire creates another, one jealousy produces another comparison, one resentment produces another thought, one fear produces 10 imagined fears. Negative tendencies multiply when repeatedly nourished. Therefore, the 100 Kauravas need not be understood as a literal list of 100 psychological defects. Symbolically, their great number beautifully expresses the multiplicity of the restless mind. Duryodhana, the ego, greed and possessiveness. Duryodhana represents the powerful voice within us that says, I want it because I want it. He has intelligence, strength, education and royal training. His problem is not lack of ability. His problem is the direction in which his abilities are used. He becomes a symbol of ego, jealousy, greed, comparison, entitlement, possessiveness and refusal to surrender what is unjustly held. Duryodhana teaches us an important lesson. Intelligence without inner transformation can become an instrument of ego. Dushasana, violent action under the command of ego. If Duryodhana symbolizes egoic desire, Dushasana may be contemplated as action carrying out the commands of that desire. An uncontrolled thought becomes an intention, intention becomes action, repeated action becomes character. This is why inner discipline must begin before destructive thoughts become destructive behavior. Shakuni, the cunning, manipulative mind. Shakuni represents cunning intelligence separated from wisdom. The intellect is an extraordinary instrument, but intellect can justify almost anything when placed in the service of resentment and selfish desire. Shakuni therefore symbolizes the calculating voice that whispers, manipulate, take revenge, find a shortcut, win at any cost. The Mahabharata reminds us that cleverness and wisdom are not the same thing. The 5 Pandavas, the disciplined human being. In symbolic yogic readings, the 5 Pandavas are sometimes associated with the 5 great elements, Panchamahabhutas. Different interpretive traditions may arrange these correspondences differently, so they should be understood contemplatively rather than as a single canonical scheme. One useful arrangement is Yudhishthira, Akasha, space, calmness, truth, Dharma, and spacious discrimination. Bhima is Vayu, air, movement, force, breath, and tremendous vital energy. Arjuna is Agni, fire, focus, transformation, brilliance, courage, and directed will. Nakula is Jala, water, purity, adaptability, refinement, and harmony. And Sahadeva is Prithvi, earth, groundedness, stability, patience, and practical wisdom. Together, they represent an integrated human personality. The message is beautiful. Human power is created not by destroying our nature, but by bringing all dimensions of our nature under Dharma. Draupadi, inner dignity and awakened Shakti. Draupadi can be contemplated as Shakti, the fiery dignity of consciousness, refusing humiliation and adharma. Her question in the royal assembly is extraordinarily important. She does not merely suffer, she questions, she demands moral clarity. She exposes the silence of powerful people. Spiritually, Draupadi represents the inner force that refuses to allow conscience to be stripped of its dignity. Her story says, when injustice stands before us, do we remain silent because silence is convenient? Yudhishthira, Dharma and discrimination. He symbolizes the aspiration towards righteousness, yet he is not portrayed as mechanically perfect. That is precisely why the Mahabharata is such an extraordinary study of life. Good people can make disastrous decisions. Knowledge does not guarantee flawless judgment. Dharma is often subtle. Thus, Yudhishthira teaches us that spirituality is not merely believing ourselves to be good. It requires continuous viveka or discrimination. Bhima, prana and power. Bhima's enormous strength makes him a natural symbol of vital force, prana. Power itself is neither spiritual nor unspiritual. Everything depends upon who directs it. Energy directed by dharma protects. Energy directed by anger destroys. Therefore, Bhima reminds us, do not kill your power. Educate it, direct it, consecrate it. Arjuna, the awakening human soul. Arjuna is perhaps the character with whom the seeker can most immediately identify. He is capable but confused, strong but emotionally overwhelmed, knowledgeable but uncertain. Standing between two armies, he suddenly sees relationships, consequences, morality, duty, and death simultaneously. His bow slips, his body trembles, his certainty collapses. This is not merely weakness, it becomes the beginning of inquiry. Arjuna represents the human being who finally admits, I do not know, teach me. That moment changes everything. The spiritual journey begins when ego stops pretending that it already knows. Krishna, the inner divine intelligence. Krishna does not fight Arjuna's battle for him. This is one of the deepest symbols in the Gita. Krishna becomes his Sarthi, the charioteer. Spiritually, Krishna can represent the indwelling divine, higher intelligence, pure awareness, wisdom, conscience, and the light that guides human action. Krishna gives knowledge, Krishna reveals perspective, Krishna removes delusion, but finally Krishna tells Arjuna, in essence, reflect deeply and then choose. This is spiritual empowerment. Divine wisdom does not make us psychologically dependent, it awakens us. The chariot, the human instrument. A beautiful Indian spiritual metaphor sees human life as a chariot. The body is the vehicle. The senses are like horses moving towards objects. The mind receives their impulses. Discriminative intelligence must guide them. And the deepest self is beyond the changing movements of the vehicle. This chariot symbolism is explicitly developed in the Kathopanishad rather than originating as a detailed allegory of Arjuna's chariot in the Mahabharata. Yet placing that Upanishadic metaphor beside Krishna and Arjuna provides a powerful contemplation. What happens when our senses drive our life? And what happens when wisdom holds the reins? Karna, greatness wounded by identity and loyalty. Karna is one of the most psychologically complex characters of the Mahabharata. He cannot simply be labeled evil. He embodies extraordinary generosity, courage, ability, loyalty and pain. Spiritually, Karna can represent great human potential entangled in wounded identity, resentment and misplaced allegiance. A person may possess magnificent qualities and still stand on the wrong side of an ethical conflict. Why? Because unresolved hurt influences choices, because gratitude becomes bondage, because loyalty can become blind, because wounded identity seeks recognition. Karna therefore teaches a subtle lesson. Virtue in one part of our personality does not automatically make every choice righteous. Bhishma, the power and danger of vows. Bhishma represents discipline, sacrifice, knowledge, and astonishing willpower. Yet his life also asks, can an old vow become a prison? Can loyalty to an institution prevent us from opposing injustice strongly enough? Can personal honor become separated from living dharma? Bhishma teaches us that even noble commitments must remain illuminated by wisdom. Dharma is alive. It cannot always be reduced to rigid rules. Drona, knowledge conditioned by attachment. Dronacharya represents mastery, education and skill. Yet knowledge exists alongside personal attachments, ambitions and obligations. His character therefore asks teachers and intellectuals a timeless question. Is knowledge enough if consciousness has not been purified? Education gives capability. Wisdom determines how capability is used. Vidura, the voice of conscience. Vidura represents clear discrimination, ethical wisdom and the quiet voice of truth. Every person has moments when something within says, don't do this, this is unjust, stop, think again. That is the Vidura within us. Unfortunately, the Dhritarashtra within us does not always listen. The Mahabharata therefore teaches conscience does not become useless because it is quiet. It becomes lost when we repeatedly refuse to hear it. Sanjaya the witness. Sanjaya is given the ability to perceive the events of Kurukshetra and narrate them to Dhritarashtra. Spiritually, he can beautifully symbolize Sakshi Bhava, the witnessing attitude. Thought arises, witness it. Anger arises, witness it. Fear arises, witness it. Desire arises, witness it. Instead of immediately becoming the emotion, awareness observes. Anger is arising in me. That tiny space between awareness and reaction can transform a life. Sanjaya therefore represents the possibility of seeing the inner battle clearly. The Mahabharata inside the human being. The entire symbolism can now be understood. Dhritarashtra, attachment, blinded mind. Gandhari, chosen blindness to uncomfortable truth. Duryodhana, ego, jealousy and possessiveness. Dushasana, destructive actions serving ego. Shakuni, manipulative intelligence. Kauravas, multiplying uncontrolled tendencies. Pandavas, disciplined dharmic capacities. Yudhishthira, discrimination and dharma. Bhima, vital force and strength. Arjuna, questioning, awakening human being. Draupadi, dignity and transformative Shakti. Karna, wounded greatness and conflicted loyalty. Bhishma, tremendous will bound by vows and elegance. Drona, knowledge complicated by attachment. Vidura, conscience and wisdom. Sanjaya, witnessing awareness. Krishna, divine wisdom and guiding consciousness. Kurukshetra, the field of human life and moral action. And therefore, the Mahabharata is happening within us every day. Why should we study the Mahabharata as a study of life? Because the Mahabharata does not give us a childish world divided neatly into perfect heroes and simple villains. Its people are complicated. Good people make mistakes. Powerful people become insecure. Wise people remain silent. Loyal people support questionable causes. Promises create unintended consequences. Family affection conflicts with justice. Ambition destroys relationships. Humiliation produces revenge. Greed destroys abundance. And suffering sometimes become the doorway to wisdom. That is why the Mahabharata remains profoundly relevant. It studies human nature. Mahabharata teaches us about the mind. Before we understand society, we must understand ourselves. Why am I jealous? Why am I angry? Why do I compare? Why do I need recognition? Why do I fear losing? Why do I defend my mistakes? Why do I know something is wrong yet continue doing it? These questions are Mahabharata. Mahabharata teaches us about relationships, parent and child, husband and wife, teacher and student, brother and brother, friend and friend, king and citizen, individual and society. Every relationship contains expectations, attachments, responsibilities, and moral choices. The Mahabharata studies all of them. Mahabharata teaches us about leadership. Dhritarashtra demonstrates what happens when a leader's private attachment overwhelms public responsibility. Vidura demonstrates ethical counsel. Krishna demonstrates strategic wisdom without selfish desire for the throne. Yudhishthira demonstrates both the possibilities and difficulties of dharmic leadership. Thus, the epic remains a remarkable text for administrators, teachers, parents, professionals, and leaders. Mahabharata teaches that knowledge alone cannot save us. Duryodhana was not ignorant of morality. Drona was highly educated. Bhishma possessed enormous wisdom. Yet knowing dharma and acting according to dharma are different achievements. This distinction is vital for modern education. We educate the brain, but do we educate desire? We develop skills, but do we develop character? We increase information, but do we increase self-awareness? Education without inner education remains incomplete. The Bhagavad Gita, wisdom arising in the middle of crisis. The Bhagavad Gita does not arise in the quiet monastery. It arises on the battlefield. This itself carries an extraordinary message. You do not have to escape life to discover spirituality. Your confusion can become your classroom. Your responsibility can become your yoga. Your relationships can become your teachers. Your difficulties can expose your attachments. Your decisions can reveal your character. And your deepest crisis may become the moment in which you finally ask the deepest questions. That is why Krishna teaches Arjuna in the middle of life. The real Kurukshetra. Every morning we enter Kurukshetra. When anger arises and awareness says, do not react, Kurukshetra has begun. When greed says, take more, and conscience says enough, Kurukshetra has begun. When fear says, run away, and dharma says, stand, Kurukshetra has begun. When ego says, I must win, and wisdom asks, what is right, Kurukshetra has begun. When resentment says, take revenge, and awareness says, understand first, Kurukshetra has begun. The battlefield is within all of us. The purpose of studying Mahabharata. We should therefore not study the Mahabharata merely to ask who defeated whom. We should ask who is defeating whom inside me. Is Duryodhana controlling my decisions? Is Shakuni manipulating my intelligence? Is Dhritarashtra refusing to see? Is Karna's wounded identity making my decisions? Is Bhishma's rigid loyalty preventing me from challenging something wrong? Is Vidura speaking within me? Is Arjuna finally asking questions? Is Krishna's wisdom being heard? And is Sanjaya, the witness, watching everything without becoming lost in it? Then the Mahabharata becomes meditation. From Mahabharata to self-discovery. Do not merely search for the Pandavas and Kauravas in another people. Search within yourself. The moment I recognize my jealousy, Duradhana becomes visible. The moment I recognize my manipulation, Shakuni becomes visible. The moment I recognize my attachment, Dhritarashtra becomes visible. The moment I witness my thoughts, Sanjaya awakens. The moment I listen to conscience, Vidura speaks. The moment I sincerely seek truth, Arjuna arises. And when the noise of ego becomes quiet enough to hear deeper wisdom, Krishna is already there. The purpose of this symbolism is therefore not to condemn parts of ourselves. It is to illuminate them. Awareness transforms the battlefield. The Mahabharata is a mirror. It is a study of the body, a study of the mind, a study of relationships, a study of attachment, a study of power, politics, education, psychology, leadership, a study of consequences, a study of dharma, of consciousness, and ultimately a study of life. We need not merely read the Mahabharata. We must read ourselves through the Mahabharata. For the greatest battle is not necessarily between two armies. It is the silent battle between awareness and unconsciousness within the human mind. And the greatest victory is not conquering another person. The greatest victory is mastery of oneself. When Krishna, the light of wisdom, holds the reins of the mind, the battlefield of life itself becomes a path towards awakening. The fire becomes light. The Upanishads. The Upanishads are among the great spiritual treasures of humanity. They are not merely religious books. They are deep explorations into consciousness, existence, life, death, reality, illusion, and the eternal truth behind creation. They are not meant only to be read. They are meant to be realized, understood. The Upanishads are like lamps lit in the darkness of ignorance. They do not force belief, they invite awakening. What does the word Upanishad mean? The word Upanishad comes from Sanskrit. Upa, near, ni, down, shad is to sit, dissolve or destroy ignorance. Thus, Upanishad means to sit near the Guru in deep humility and receive the wisdom that destroys ignorance. It is the transmission of truth from awakened consciousness to the seeking mind. The Upanishads are therefore not ordinary literature. They are conversations between Guru and disciple, consciousness and mind, silence and words, light and darkness. Who wrote the Upanishads? The Upanishads were not written by one person. They were revealed to ancient Indian sages called rishis through deep meditation and direct spiritual realization. These sages did not claim, "I invented truth." Instead, they experienced truth directly. The wisdom was later preserved orally by centuries before being written down. Important sages include Yajnavalkya, Uddalaka Aruni, Nachiketa, Shvetketu, and Gargi. The sages were not seeking power or fame. They were seekers of the ultimate reality. How many Upanishads are there? Traditionally, they are said to be 108 Upanishads. However, around 10 to 13 major Upanishads are considered the principal ones because they contain the deepest philosophical teachings. Some famous Upanishads are Isha Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad. What do the Upanishads teach? The Upanishads ask the greatest questions. Who am I? What is death? What is consciousness? What is the universe? What is reality? What remains when everything changes? What is the source of joy? What is truth? Their central teaching is the individual soul and the universal consciousness are not separate. This is expressed through the great Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, thou art that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Prajnanam Brahmaha, consciousness is Brahma. What is the true essence of Upanishads? The essence is the fire of ignorance becomes the light of awareness. This perfectly resonates with your vision. The fire of ignorance becomes the light of awareness. The Upanishads teach that human suffering comes from ignorance of our true nature. We identify only with body, emotions and mind, but beyond all changing experiences exists eternal consciousness. Like clouds hiding the sun, ignorance hides truth. Wisdom does not create truth, wisdom removes illusion. What must we derive from the Upanishads? We must derive clarity, awareness, compassion, inner silence, fearlessness, and self-realization. The Upanishads are not escape from life. They teach how to live with awareness. They teach, observe the mind, understand emotions, rise above illusion, and see unity in diversity, and discover the eternal light within. Shunyata, the great emptiness. Though Shunyata becomes more central in Buddhism, the Upanishads also hint towards the silent void beyond form. Shunyata is not emptiness of nothingness. It is infinite potential, silent awareness, the womb of creation. Like space, it appears empty yet contains galaxies. Silence is not absence, silence is hidden fullness. Purusha and Prakriti. The Upanishadic vision later influenced Sankhya philosophy. Purusha, pure consciousness, the witness, stillness, awareness, and Prakriti, nature, movement, energy, creation, mind, matter, and emotion. Purusha is like light. Prakriti is like the dance seen in the light. One is silent awareness, the other is expression. Together they create the existence and the creation. Creation according to the Upanishads. The Upanishads describe creation not as mechanical manufacture, but as manifestation. Creation emerges from consciousness itself, like waves from the ocean, sparks from fire, fragrance from flowers. The universe is consciousness expressing itself. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva and Adi Shakti. The Upanishads point beyond forms into principles. Brahma, creative intelligence, the birth of ideas and universes. Vishnu, sustaining harmony, balance, protection of cosmic order. Shiva, dissolution, transformation, silence, pure consciousness. And Adi Shakti, primordial energy, creative force, the dynamic power behind manifestation. Spiritually, Shiva is consciousness, Shakti is energy in motion. Without consciousness, energy is blind. Without energy, consciousness remains unexpressed. Emotions in the Upanishadic vision. Emotions are movements within consciousness. Anger, joy, sorrow, and love all arise and pass like waves. The Upanishads do not say suppress emotions. They teach, observe them, understand them, do not become imprisoned by them. The witness within remains untouched. Illusion and reality. Maya, illusion. Maya does not mean the world is fake. It means we mistake temporary forms for ultimate reality, like mistaking a rope for a snake in darkness, dreaming while asleep. The world changes constantly. The eternal witness behind all change is reality. Wisdom and ignorance. Ignorance is, I am only this body and mind. Wisdom is, I am consciousness, experiencing life through body and mind. Ignorance creates fear. Wisdom creates freedom. Story of Nachiketa, the boy who asked death. From the Kathopanishad, a young boy named Nachiketa asked his father, "What happens after death?" His father angrily said, "I give you to death." Nachiketa went to the abode of Yama, the lord of death. Yama offered him wealth, pleasure, long life and kingdoms, but the boy refused. He asked only one thing, "What is the truth beyond death?" Finally, Yama taught him, the body dies, the eternal self never dies. Like changing clothes, the soul changes forms. Essence for the fire becomes light. The fear of death ends when consciousness recognizes its eternal nature. Story of Shvetaketu. Tattvamasi. A proud young scholar named Shvetaketu returned home after mastering scriptures. His father asked, "Have you known what by knowing which everything becomes known?" The boy was silent. His father dissolved salt in water and asked him to find the salt. He could not see it, but everywhere the water tasted salty. His father said, the invisible essence pervading all existence is the self. Tattvam asi, thou art that. The essence, consciousness, is invisible yet present everywhere, like light hidden within fire. Stories of two birds from the Manduka Upanishad. Two birds sit on the same tree. One bird eats sweet and bitter fruits. The other silently watches. The eating bird is the human ego, experiencing pleasure and pain. The silent bird is the eternal witness, consciousness. When the first bird looks towards the silent bird, peace begins. Awareness becomes light through witnessing. The fire becomes light. Upanishadic meaning, fire symbolizes desire, ego, suffering, restlessness, seeking. Light symbolizes wisdom, awareness, realization, compassion and truth. The Upanishads are the journey from burning to illumination. Quotes, the light you seek is the witness watching your search. The wave fears death until it realizes it is the ocean. The fire of questioning becomes the light of wisdom. Consciousness hides itself as creation to rediscover itself through awareness. Silence is not emptiness, it is the womb of existence. The final message. The Upanishads are not asking humanity to escape life. They ask humanity to awaken within life, to see the sacred within ordinary existence, the eternal within the temporary, the infinite within the self. They teach that the universe is not dead matter. It is living consciousness expressing itself endlessly, and the deepest realization is the seeker, the search and the truth are one. Fire becomes light. Stories of the Upanishadic sages and divine wisdom. The fire becomes light through knowledge. The stories of the sages and divine beings in the Upanishads and ancient Indian wisdom traditions are not merely mythology. They are symbolic revelations about consciousness, truth, ego, wisdom, silence and awakening. Every character represents an inner principle within human life. Yajnavalkya, the sage of fearless wisdom. Yajnavalkya was one of the greatest sages of the Upanishads, especially of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. He was known for immense wisdom, fearless truth, deep meditation and clarity about the self. He taught kings, sages and seekers that the self is not the body, not the mind, but pure awareness. Story, Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi. One day, Yajnavalkya decided to renounce worldly life and enter complete spiritual contemplation. He had two wives, Katyayani and Maitreyi. Maitreyi was deeply spiritual. Yajnavalkya told them he would divide his wealth before leaving. Maitreyi asked, can wealth give immortality? He replied, no, wealth may provide comfort, but not eternal truth. Then Maitreyi said, what shall I do with that which cannot make me immortal? Teach me the truth instead. Yajnavalkya became deeply pleased. He taught her everything is loved not for itself, but for the sake of the self. A husband is loved because consciousness experiences love through him. Music is loved because consciousness enjoys beauty through it. Life itself is loved because consciousness shines within it. Then he declared, when the self is known, everything becomes known. Essence. This story teaches outer possessions cannot satisfy the deepest longing. Consciousness seeks itself through all relationships. Truth is greater than material accumulation. Connection to the fire becomes light. The burning fire of desire becomes the light of wisdom when the seeker turns inward. Uddalaka Aruni, the teacher of Tattvamasi. Uddalika Aruni was a great sage and father of Shvetketu. He taught one of the most powerful truths in human history, Tattvamasi, thou art that. Story, Salt in Water. His son Shvetketu returned home proud after studying scriptures for many years. He believed he knew everything. Uddalaka gently asked, have you known that by knowing which all else becomes known? Shvetketu was silent. Then Uddalaka asked him to dissolve salt in water. The next morning he asked, can you see the salt? No, said Shvetketu. Then taste the water. It is salty everywhere. Uddalaka smiled and said, though unseen, the salt exists everywhere. So too the eternal self exists everywhere. Then he declared Tattvamasi, you are that infinite reality. The essence, God is not far away. Truth is not outside creation. Consciousness silently pervades everything: stars, rivers, thoughts, emotions, life itself, like hidden salt in water. Gargi, the woman who questioned the universe. Gargi was one of the greatest women philosophers of ancient India. She was fearless, brilliant, and spiritually awakened. In King Janaka's court, many great sages gathered for philosophical debates. Yajnavalkya was present there. Most scholars feared questioning him, but Gargi stood up fearlessly. Gargi's questions. Gargi asked, "That which is above the heavens, below the earth, between heaven and earth, by what is all this woven?" Yajnavalkya answered, "By space." Then Gargi asked, "And by what is space woven?" He replied, "By the imperishable, the eternal Brahma." The entire court became silent. Gargi realized Yajnavalkya had experienced the highest truth. She bowed and said, "None here can defeat him in the knowledge of Brahman." Essence. Gargi represents fearless inquiry, spiritual intelligence, wisdom beyond gender, the courage to ask ultimate questions. The Upanishads teach truth is discovered through inquiry, not blind belief. Brahma and Kartikeya, story of creation and wisdom. This story belongs more to the Puranic tradition but carries deep spiritual symbolism connected to Upanishadic wisdom. Story. Brahma questions Kartikeya. One day, the creator god Brahma met young Kartikeya. Kartikeya asked Brahma, "What is the meaning of Om?" Brahma began explaining scriptures and words, but Kartikeya interrupted. "You know the words, but you do not know the experience." Brahma became silent. Kartikeya then imprisoned Brahma symbolically for lacking direct realization. When Shiva asked Kartikeya why, he replied, "Creation without true wisdom leads to ignorance." Then Kartikeya himself explained the deeper meaning of Om. Essence. Knowledge without realization remains incomplete. Words are not enough. Trust must become living experience. The fire becomes light. Om. The sound of existence. The Upanishads declare Om to be the primordial vibration of existence. It is not merely a word, it symbolizes creation, preservation, dissolution, and pure consciousness. The Mandukya Upanishad explains Om deeply. The three sounds of Om. A represents waking state, creation, Brahma, material existence, the beginning of manifestation. The U represents deep state, preservation, Vishnu, subtle existence, and the flow of life. The Ma represents deep sleep, dissolution, Shiva, return into silence, the merging back into the source. The silence after Om, the most important part is the silence after the sound fades. That silence represents Brahman, pure consciousness, the eternal witness, the Shunyata, infinite awareness. The Upanishads say the universe rises from the silence and dissolves back into silence. Spiritual meaning of Om. Om is the vibration of consciousness, the pulse of existence, the breath of creation. The invisible becomes visible, silence becomes vibration, fire becomes light, consciousness becomes creation. A small story about Om. A disciple once asked his guru, "Where is God?" The guru struck a bell. The sound echoed through the valley. "Listen carefully," said the guru. The disciple listened as the sound slowly disappeared into silence. The guru smiled. The sound is creation. The silence is truth. Both are one. Quotes. The Upanishads are flames that become light within the silent mind. Om is the universe breathing itself into existence. The seeker asks questions. Wisdom becomes the answer. Truth is not learned only through words. It is awakened through awareness. The light behind every thought is consciousness itself. The final message. The stories of Yajnavalkya, Uddalaka, Aruni, Gargi, Brahma, and Kartikeya are not merely ancient tales. They are mirrors of the inner journey. Each story teaches move from pride to humility, from information to realization, from illusion to awareness, from noise to silence, from fire to light, and finally realize the light you seek outside has always been shining within. The fire becomes light. Bhagavad Purana and Devi Bhagavata. Stories that led the mind from the world to the divine. The Bhagavad Purana, commonly called the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Purana, is one of the 18 major Puranas of Hindu tradition. It is especially devoted to Vishnu and his incarnations, with the life teachings and the divine play of Lord Krishna occupying a central place. The Bhagavata is not merely a collection of ancient stories. Its deeper purpose is to answer some of the humanity's timeless questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Why do I suffer? What is permanent? What is God? What is devotion? And how can a human being become free? What is the Bhagavad Purana? The Bhagavad Purana contains 12 skandhas or books traditionally described as containing about 18,000 verses. Its teachings are presented through conversations, stories, prayers, philosophy and accounts of devotees, sages, kings and divine incarnations. One of its central setting is very significant. King Parikshit, grandson of Arjuna, learns that he has only 7 days to live. Instead of spending those 7 days protecting his possessions or worrying about death, he asks, what should a person do when death is approaching? What should one here remember and contemplate? The great sage Shukadeva teaches him the Bhagavata. Therefore, at its heart, the Bhagavata is a teaching about how to live when we understand that life is temporary. Parikshit has 7 days. We do not know how many days we have. That is why the question of Parikshit becomes the question of every human being. Main characteristics of the Bhagavata. The Bhagavad beautifully combines several spiritual paths. Bhakti, devotion. It teaches loving devotion to God, not merely ritual worship, but a heart filled with remembrance, surrender, gratitude and love. Jnana is wisdom. It repeatedly asks us to distinguish between the temporary and the eternal. The body changes, possessions change, relationships change, circumstances will also change. But the spiritual self, the Atman, is understood as deeper than these changing identities. Vairagya, detachment. Detachment does not mean abandoning life. It means live fully, love deeply, perform your responsibility sincerely, but do not become psychologically imprisoned by possession and attachment. Dharma, right living. The Bhagavata teaches compassion, truthfulness, humility, self-control, service and devotion. Satsanga, noble company. Again and again, transformation occurs because someone meets a saint, a sage, devotee or wise teacher. The message is very, very simple. The company we keep gradually becomes the quality of our mind. Why is Krishna worshipped as the liberator? In the Bhagavad Purana, in the Bhagavad tradition, Krishna is not presented merely as a historical hero or extraordinary human personality. He is revered as a supreme divine reality appearing in a humanly accessible form. Krishna liberates because his teaching repeatedly breaks the chains that bind the human mind. Fear, ego, attachment, hatred, possessiveness, ignorance, pride, and the illusion that we are only this temporary body and personality. Krishna's flute can therefore be understood symbolically too. A flute produces beautiful music when it is hollow. Similarly, the spiritual seeker gradually becomes empty of excessive ego, I, me and mine, and allows divine wisdom to flow through life. The Krishna of the Bhagavata teaches love without possession, act without arrogance, remember the divine, see sacredness in existence, and surrender the ego. That inner freedom is liberation or moksha. Why are so many stories written in the Bhagavad Purana? Because profound philosophy is difficult to remember, but a story enters the heart and remains there. Consider some famous examples. Prahlada teaches unwavering faith even in terrifying circumstances. Dhruva begins his spiritual journey wanting recognition and status, but through devotion discovers something infinitely greater. Gajendra the elephant caught by a crocodile symbolizes the helplessness that sometimes makes the ego finally surrender. Ajamela demonstrates the transformative power associated with remembrance of the divine name. Sudama and Krishna express friendship, humility and love beyond material wealth. The gopis' love for Krishna represents in devotional interpretation the soul's intense longing for God. Thus, the outer characters communicate inner truths. The stories are mirrors. When we read carefully, eventually we stop asking, what happened to this character? and begin asking, where is this character within me? That is where scripture becomes our self-study. Why is the Bhagavata considered sacred? It is sacred not simply because it is ancient. It is sacred because generations of seekers have approached it as a means of turning consciousness towards the divine. Its stories continually redirect attention from possession to surrender, from ego to humility, from anxiety to trust, from hatred to compassion, and temporary pleasure to lasting fulfillment, and from identification with the body towards knowledge of the self and God. The Bhagavata therefore attempts to transform the quality of the person reading it. Reading sacred literature is valuable, but living its wisdom is even more important. How does the Bhagavata lead towards moksha? Moksha means liberation. At the deepest level, liberation is freedom from ignorance and bondage, the cycle of attachment, ego and suffering, and ultimately from samsara. The Bhagavata places enormous importance on hearing about God, remembering God, chanting or praising God, serving, worshipping, surrendering, and loving the divine. But these should gradually transform character. If someone reads scriptures every day but remains consumed by hatred, greed, jealousy, and arrogance, the purpose has not yet been fulfilled. True spiritual study should gradually create a quieter mind, a softer heart, less ego, greater compassion, greater equanimity, and deeper awareness of the divine. Moksha is therefore not simply something to think about at death. Freedom can begin while living. Every attachment understood is a small liberation. Every hatred released is liberation. Every fear observed without becoming its slave is liberation. Every moment in which ego becomes silent and awareness shines clearly gives us a glimpse of inner freedom. What is the Devi Bhagavata? The Devi Bhagavata Purana, also called the Devi Bhagavatam, is an important scripture in which Devi, the Divine Mother, is revered as the supreme reality. Like the Bhagavata Purana, it is traditionally arranged into 12 skandhas. Its theological emphasis, however, is different. Where the Bhagavata prominently celebrates Vishnu and Krishna, the Devi Bhagavata places Mahadevi, the supreme goddess, at the center of the cosmic reality. Who is Devi? The word Devi means goddess, but philosophically, its meaning can be much more deeper. Devi is Shakti, the divine power through which existence manifests and functions. She appears through many names: Durga, protective power; Kali, transformative power; Lakshmi, abundance and sustaining harmony; Saraswati, knowledge, wisdom, learning; Parvati, divine love and spiritual power; Bhuvaneshwari, cosmic sovereignty and space; and many other manifestations. These need not be understood as competing goddesses. They can be understood as different expressions of one divine Shakti. Just as electricity can illuminate a lamp, heat an oven, cool a room and operate a computer while remaining electricity, one divine power can manifest through countless forms and functions. Is Devi only a female form of God? Not in the deeper philosophy. Male and female are biological distinctions within manifested life. The supreme reality itself is beyond human gender. The feminine imagery of Devi communicates profound realities: creation, nourishment, power, wisdom, protection, transformation, compassion, and the mystery from which life emerges. The universe is therefore not viewed as spiritually dead matter. It is filled with Shakti energy, that earth that nourishes us, intelligence that understands, courage that protects, compassion that heals, and energy that moves life can also become reminders of the divine power, the Devi. What is the importance of the Devi Bhagavata? The Devi Bhagavata teaches a magnificent idea. The Divine Mother is not separate from the creation. She is the power operating through creation. The cosmos, nature, mind, intelligence, and spiritual power ultimately arise within the one divine reality. This changes our relationship with life. Nature deserves reverence, women deserve dignity, knowledge deserves respect, the body should not be despised. Creation should not be exploited thoughtlessly. Power should not become domination. True Shakti must be accompanied by wisdom. What does the Devi Bhagavata teach? Among its broad teachings are devotion to the Divine Mother, The heart becomes purified through love, remembrance, and surrender. The greatness of Shakti. Nothing in manifestation functions without power. The unity behind different divine forms. Different forms allow different temperaments to approach the same ultimate sacred reality. Dharma. Spirituality must influence conduct, knowledge of the self. The seeker is gradually led beyond limited identity towards the deeper spiritual self. Maya. Human beings become trapped by appearances, attachments, and mistaken identification. Maya does not simply mean that the world does not exist. Rather, we misunderstand reality when we treat temporary things as permanent and the limited ego as our complete identity. Liberation. Through devotion, wisdom, disciplined living, grace and realization, the seeker moves towards freedom. Devi and consciousness. A useful spiritual way to understand the relationship is: consciousness is the ground of awareness. Shakti is its power of manifestation. Indian philosophy often illustrates this through Shiva and Shakti. Shiva represents pure consciousness. Shakti represents dynamic creative power. They are not ultimately two independent realities. A simple analogy is fire and its power to burn. Can we completely separate fire from its heat? Likewise, consciousness and its inherent power are described as inseparable. Thus, Devi worship at its deepest level is not merely worshipping an external female deity. It can become recognition of the sacred power present throughout existence and within oneself. How can the Bhagavata and the Devi Bhagavata help us in ordinary life? Their usefulness becomes clearest when scripture enters daily behavior. When angry, ask who is controlling whom, my awareness or my anger. When jealous, we should ask, why does another person's success disturb my peace? When afraid, ask, what exactly am I afraid of losing? When proud, ask, how much of what I possess could I have created entirely by myself? When suffering, ask, is the event causing all my suffering, or is my resistance and interpretation adding to it? When successful, remember gratitude. When powerful, practice compassion. When confused, become quiet before acting. When hurt, avoid immediately passing the hurt to another person. When happy, share happiness. This is practical spirituality. Bhagavata and Devi Bhagavata, two beautiful approaches. The Bhagavad Purana says, in essence, love the divine so completely that the ego gradually loses its hold over you. The Devi Bhagavata says, in essence, recognize the divine power that manifests, sustains, protects, and transforms existence. Krishna represents the irresistible attraction of the soul towards the divine. Devi represents the infinite Shakti through which the divine becomes creation. One emphasizes the sweetness of bhakti, the other especially celebrates the majesty of Shakti. Yet both can direct the seeker towards the same profound transformation, from ego to surrender, from ignorance to wisdom, from fear to trust, from separation towards unity, and from bondage towards liberation. The essence of moksha. Moksha should not be reduced to the idea, after I die, I will go somewhere. The scriptures ask for something more immediate. Can I become free now from uncontrolled desire? Can I remain peaceful without controlling everyone around me? Can I love without possessing? Can I act sincerely without constantly demanding recognition? Can I see another person's happiness without jealousy? Can I face change without losing myself? Can I discover the awareness within which all these experiences come and go? When this understanding deepens, spirituality stops being merely a subject we read. Life itself becomes the scripture. The Bhagavata teaches us to see Krishna everywhere. The Devi Bhagavata teaches us to recognize Shakti everywhere. And deeper spiritual inquiry eventually will ask, who is the one seeing Krishna? Who is the one worshipping Devi? Who is the one seeking liberation? When the seeker discovers the deepest nature of the self, the distance between seeker, sought and seeking begins to dissolve. That is the doorway towards moksha. A concluding thought: read the Purana as a story and you receive inspiration. Study it as philosophy and you receive wisdom. Reflect upon it as a mirror and you discover yourself. Life, its truth, and the journey towards liberation has already begun. The fire becomes light. Adi Shankaracharya is often remembered as the great teacher of Advaita Vedanta, the philosophy of non-duality. Yet the tradition also contributes to him profound devotional hymns to Devi, Shiva, Vishnu and other forms of the divine. There is no contradictions in this. In Advaita, the ultimate reality is one, while devotion to a divine form can purify and concentrate the mind and express that same reality through love. Why did Adi Shankaracharya worship Devi? For Shankaracharya, Brahman is the absolute non-dual reality, beyond name, form and gender. But that same reality is understood as the power through which the universe appears, functions and transforms. It is called Shakti. A beautiful traditional expression is, Shiva is consciousness and Shakti is the power of the consciousness. Without Shakti, Shiva symbolizes unmoving pure awareness. Through Shakti, manifestation becomes possible. This idea appears dramatically in the opening verse of the Saundarya Lahari. Shiva, united with Shakti, has the power to create. Without her, he cannot even stir. So worship of Devi or Shakti does not necessarily mean that Shankaracharya abandoned Advaita. At the devotional level, he worships the mother. At the highest philosophical level, worshipper, worshipped and consciousness itself are not ultimately separate. The traditional story behind the Saundarya Lahari. There are several traditional legends about the origin of the Saundarya Lahari, and they should be understood as sacred tradition rather than securely documented biography. One famous account says that Adi Shankaracharya journeyed mystically to Mount Kailasa, the abode of Shiva and Parvati. There, he received a sacred composition connected with the Divine Mother. As Shankaracharya was leaving Kailasa with it, Nandi, Shiva's attendant, is said to have tried to retain the sacred text. During this incident, part of the manuscript remained at Kailasa while Shankaracharya carried away only a portion of it. According to the traditional explanation, the verses he received became associated with the first section commonly called Ananda Lahari, Wave of Bliss. Shankaracharya then completed the remaining verses through his own realization and devotion to Devi. The complete work became known as Saundarya Lahari, the Wave of Beauty. Traditionally, the work contains 100 verses, with the first 41 verses often identified as Ananda Lahari and the remaining 59 particularly celebrating the beauty and the glory of the goddess. But this division and the legends surrounding its composition belong to later religious tradition. The precise historical authorship and textual development of the work are subjects of scholarly discussion. What does Saundarya Lahari mean? Saundarya means beauty and Lahari is waves. So Saundarya Lahari means the wave of the divine beauty. But beauty here is much more than physical appearance. Devi's beauty symbolizes the beauty of consciousness manifesting as creation. The stars are a beauty, nature is a beauty, intelligence is a beauty, compassion is a beauty, love is a beauty, music is a beauty. The power to think, create, nourish and transform is Shakti. Therefore, describing Devi's beauty poetically can also be understood as celebrating the magnificence of the cosmic creative principle. Why was Saundarya Lahari written? It operates on several levels simultaneously. First, it is devotion. It expresses an intense relationship between the devotee and the Divine Mother. Second, it is philosophy. It represents Shiva and Shakti as inseparable dimensions of the one reality. Third, it belongs to the Srividya and Shakta spiritual world. Its verses are traditionally connected with mantra, yantra, chakras, kundalini and forms of Devi worship. Some of these practices traditionally require initiation and guidance from a qualified teacher. Fourth, it transforms beauty into spirituality. The poet looks at Devi's form but sees cosmic meaning through it. The extraordinary first verse. The first verse contains almost the entire philosophy in seed form. Its essential meaning is only when Shiva is united with Shakti does he possess the power to create. Without Shakti, he cannot even stir. This should not be interpreted as a competition between a male god and a female goddess. It communicates something subtler. Consciousness without manifestation is stillness. Shakti is its capacity to manifest. Think of sun and the sunlight, fire and heat, flower and the fragrance, word and the meaning. We can distinguish them conceptually, but their existence is intimately connected. Likewise, Shiva plus Shakti is equal to the mystery of consciousness and its power. Devi and Kundalini in Saundarya Lahari. The text is also associated with the subtle spiritual anatomy of Tantra. Devi as Kundalini Shakti is traditionally envisioned as spiritual power associated with the base of the subtle body. Her ascent through the chakras represents an awakening towards higher realization, culminating symbolically in union with Shiva at the Sahasrara. Again, at the deepest non-dual level, this union does not mean that two eternally separate realities finally meet. Rather, the seeker realizes that the apparent separation was never ultimate. This is where Tantra and Advaita can meet beautifully. The journey begins with two, devotee and Devi. It culminates in one. Then why worship if everything is Brahman? This is perhaps the most beautiful question. If Advaita says, I am Brahman, why bow before Devi? Because intellectually, saying Aham Brahmasmi is not necessarily the same as realizing it. The human mind still experiences fear, attachment, anger, pride, jealousy, and desire. Bhakti softens that mind. Prayer humbles it. Meditation steadies it. Self-inquiry penetrates it. Knowledge finally reveals what was always present. Therefore, devotion need not oppose non-duality. It can become a bridge towards it. There is a profound paradox here. At first I say, Mother, I am yours. Later, Mother, you are within me. Then deeper still, Mother, you are everything. And finally, the distinction between you and I disappears in non-dual awareness. That is why the image of Adi Shankaracharya, the great philosopher of Advaita, bowing before Devi, is so meaningful. He does not have to choose between jnana and bhakti. Knowledge tells him there is only one devotion, allows his heart to sing that one is my divine mother. The fire becomes light. In the yogic and the tantric traditions, chakras are subtle centers used to describe dimensions of consciousness, energy, and spiritual development. The Sanskrit word chakra means wheel or disc. They are called chakras because subtle energy was traditionally described as moving or radiating through these centers like a turning wheel. They should not be confused with physical organs. Modern anatomy has not established chakras as literal structures in the body. They belong to a traditional subtle body map used for yoga, meditation, and spiritual contemplation. Why are the chakras given these particular names? Each Sanskrit name describes an important quality, location, symbol, or spiritual meaning attributed to that center. Mooladhara. Moola is root, Adhara support and foundation. So Mooladhara means root support or root foundation. Traditionally located at the base of the subtle body, it represents the foundation of embodied existence, stability, survival, grounding, and security. Its element is earth, beautifully expressing solidity and foundation. Spiritually, it asks, is my foundation stable enough for consciousness to rise beyond fear and insecurity? Kundalini Shakti is traditionally described as resting here in a coiled state. Swadhisthana, Swa, one's own self, Adhisthana, dwelling place, seat or foundation. It can therefore mean one's own dwelling place. Traditionally associated with the lower abdominal region, it relates symbolically to emotion, pleasure, desire, relationships, sexuality, and creativity. Its element is water. Water flows, and so do emotions and desires. The spiritual lesson is not to destroy emotion or desire, but to develop enough awareness that we experience them without becoming their prisoners. Manipura. Mani is a jewel and Pura is the city. Thus Manipura means approximately city of jewels, traditionally associated with the navel region. It represents inner fire, determination, confidence, action and transformation. Its element is fire. Why fire? Because fire transforms. Food becomes energy, knowledge can become understanding, difficulty can become strength, experience can become wisdom. Therefore, Manipura symbolically asks us to transform raw personal power into disciplined and responsible power. Anahat. This is one of the most beautiful chakra means. Anahata means unstruck. Normally, sound is created when two things strike one another. Anahata nada refers spiritually to the unstruck sound, a subtle inner sound not produced by ordinary physical collision. Anahata is associated with the heart region. Its qualities include love, compassion, empathy, forgiveness, and openness. Its element is air. At this level, the spiritual journey increasingly moves beyond what can I get towards how deeply can I love without possessing. This is why the heart becomes such an important bridge in spiritual symbolism. Vishuddha. We can intensify the meaning while Shuddha means pure or purified. Vishuddha therefore means especially pure, completely purified, or the center of purification. It associates with the throat. Its traditional element is Akasha, ether or space. It represents truthful expression, listening, communication and purification. There is a beautiful practical lesson here. What enters my mind? What do I allow to remain here? And what comes out through my words? Speech can wound, speech can heal, speech can deceive, speech can illuminate. Therefore, purification of speech is also purification of consciousness. The Ajna Chakra. Ajna means command and instruction or authority. It is traditionally associated with the region between the eyebrows and is often called the third eye chakra. Why command? Because it symbolizes the center of inner discernment and direction, the capacity to see beyond immediate impulses. It is associated with concentration, intuition, discrimination and insight. Its deeper lesson is, do not believe every thought merely because the mind produced it. Observe the mind, discriminate, see clearly. The third eye therefore need not be imagined merely as another physical eye. It symbolizes inner seeing. Sahasrara. Sahasrara means thousand. Sahasrara means the thousand-petal lotus. It is symbolically placed at or above the crown of the head. The thousand petals represent limitlessness and fullness of consciousness rather than necessarily requiring a literal numerical interpretation. Here, the symbolism changes dramatically. The earlier journey appears to involve an individual seeker progressing upward. At Sahasrara, traditional Kundalini symbolism describes Shakti uniting with Shiva. Spiritually, this points towards transcendence of the limited ego and realization of the highest reality. The question is no longer merely, how can I improve myself? It becomes, who is this I that I have been trying to improve? Why are lotus flowers associated with the chakra? The lotus is one of India's most profound spiritual symbols. Its roots are in the mud, yet the flower rises through water and blossoms above it. Likewise, a human being lives amid difficulties, desires, attachments, and worldly responsibilities, but can still develop wisdom and spiritual awareness. Different chakras are traditionally represented by lotuses with different numbers of petals. Muladhara 4, Swadhisthana 6, Manipura 10, Anahata 12, Vishuddha 16, Ajna 2 and Sahasrara 1000. These petals belong to an elaborate symbolic and mantra system with tantric traditions. Why does Kundalini pass through the chakras? The Kundalini journey can be understood as a map of transformation. In simplified symbolic language, Muladhara, I need to survive. Swadhisthana, I desire and experience. Manipura, I can act. Anahata, I can love. Vishuddha, I can express truth. Ajna, I can see and I can understand. And Sahasrara, who is this I? And finally, in the non-dual interpretation, the separate I itself is examined. That is why the chakra system becomes much more meaningful when we do not reduce it to 7 colored circles. It is a spiritual map of the human journey from instinctive identification towards expanded awareness. And this connects beautifully with the symbolism of Devi as Kundalini. At Muladhara, Devi is contemplated as latent Shakti. Through the journey, Devi is awakening consciousness. At the heart, she flowers as love. At Vishuddha, she purifies expression. At Ajna, she illuminates understanding. At Sahasrara, Shiva and Shakti are realized in unity. The journey begins with I am, this limited person. Its highest philosophical question is, what am I before all the names, the roles, the thoughts and identities I have accumulated? The fire becomes light. The Upanishads. From knowledge about life to knowledge of the self. The Upanishads are among the deepest spiritual and philosophical texts of India. They do not merely ask us to believe in God. They invite us to investigate the fundamental questions of existence. Who am I? What is consciousness? What is permanent in a constantly changing world? What is Brahman? What happens when the knower, knowledge, and the known are understood as one? Meaning of the word Upanishad. The Sanskrit word Upanishad is traditionally understood through Upa is near, knee down, with attention or certainty, and Shad is to sit. Thus, at a simple level, Upanishad means sitting down near, the student sitting close to the Guru to receive subtle spiritual knowledge. But its philosophical meaning goes much deeper. The Upanishadic teaching is the knowledge that loosens ignorance and leads the seeker towards realization of the self. The Guru does not simply give the student information. The Guru repeatedly turns the student's attention inward. You have studied the world, now discover the one who is studying it. This is the movement from information to inquiry, from inquiry to experience, and from experience to self-realization. Origin of the Upanishad. The Upanishads arose within the ancient Vedic traditions of India. The four Vedas are Rig Veda, Samveda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda. The Vedic corpus developed through interconnected layers commonly described as Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aryanas, Upanishads. The early portions contain hymn, prayers and ritual teachings. The Aryanas or forest texts move increasingly towards contemplation. The Upanishads take the inquiry still further inward. The question gradually changes from what ritual should I perform to who is the I performing the ritual. This is one reason the Upanishads are associated with Vedanta. Veda Anta, the end, culmination or highest philosophical teachings of the Vedas. There are many texts called Upanishads, but a smaller group of ancient principal Upanishads forms the philosophical foundation of Vedanta. Among the best known are Isha, Kena, Katha, Prashna, Mandukya, Taittiriya, Atreya, Chandogya and Brihad Aranyaka. What do the Upanishads teach? Although different Upanishads approach truth differently, several great ideas repeatedly appear. Brahman, ultimate reality. Brahman is the ultimate reality underlying existence. It cannot be adequately contained within a name, form or concept. Everything changes, our bodies, thoughts, emotions, possessions and circumstances. But the Upanishads inquire into that which is fundamental to all experience. Atman, the self. The Upanishads ask, who am I really? Am I merely the body? The body changes. Am I the mind? Thoughts continuously appear and disappear. Am I my emotions? They too change. So what knows these changes? This inquiry leads towards Atman, the deeper self. Atman and Brahman. One of the revolutionary insights of the Upanishadic tradition is the relation between Atman and Brahman. The truth we seek as the ultimate reality of existence is not completely separate from the deepest reality of ourselves. Hence, the great Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi, that thou art, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness is Brahman. Ayam Atma Brahma, this self is Brahman. These statements are not meant as declarations of the ordinary ego. I, this personality, am God. Rather, they point beyond the limited personality towards the fundamental self. Knowledge and ignorance. According to the Upanishadic vision, bondage is fundamentally connected with avidya, ignorance. We identify ourselves exclusively with my body, my possessions, my achievements, my failures, my social identity, my fears and desires. The Upanishadic inquiry asks us to examine these identifications. When ignorance is removed, truth does not have to be manufactured. It is recognized. Like clouds moving away from the sun, knowledge removes that which concealed our understanding. Neti neti, not this, not this. The Brihat Aranyaka Upanishad employs the profound expression neti neti, not this, not this. Whatever can be observed is examined. Body, not ultimately this. Thought, not ultimately this. Emotion, not ultimately this. Memory, not ultimately this. The seeker continues to inquire into the knower all these experiences. It is a movement from the changing towards the unchanging. The Upanishadic journey. The journey can be beautifully expressed as Shravana, listening to the truth, Manan, reflecting and questioning deeply, Nididhyasana, profound contemplation and assimilation, and ultimately, Anubhava is direct realization. The purpose is therefore not merely know the Upanishads, it is know yourself. Three important stories from the Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is not itself an Upanishad. It is a Purana, yet many of its stories beautifully illuminate themes that resonate with Upanishadic teachings: self-knowledge, detachment, devotion, the impermanence of worldly identity, and realization of the divine. Story 1. Prahlada and Hiranyakashipu. Where is God? Hiranyakashipu was a powerful king filled with pride. His young son Prahlada, however, was completely devoted to Vishnu. The father repeatedly demanded that Prahlada, his son, abandon Vishnu. Prahlada refused. Hiranyakashipu finally challenged him. If your God is everywhere, is he in this pillar? Prahlada's conviction was unwavering. Yes, the king struck the pillar. From it manifested Narsimha, the extraordinary form of Vishnu, neither ordinary man nor beast. Upanishadic connection. The story can be contemplated beyond its literal devotional meaning. Where is the divine? Only in a temple? Only in heaven? Only in a particular image? The spiritual insight is there is no way from which the ultimate reality can truly be absent. Prahlada represents unwavering awareness of the divine. Hiranyakashipu represents the ego that declares I am supreme. The pillar represents the apparently ordinary world in which the ego cannot perceive sacred reality. Narasimha represents the destruction of that arrogance, mind-bender thought. When the ego asks where is God, awareness will always answer, where is God not? Story 2. Dhruva. The boy who went searching for a kingdom, Prince Dhruva, was deeply hurt when he experienced rejection and humiliation within his royal family. He wanted recognition. He wanted a position greater than anyone else's. With extraordinary determination, the young boy went into the forest and performed intense spiritual practice, guided by the sage Narada. Eventually, Vishnu appeared before him and something remarkable happened. Dhruva had begun his journey wanting worldly greatness, but when he encountered the divine, his early ambition became insignificant. Upanishadic connection. This is the transformation of desire into discovery. Initially, the seeker will ask, God, give me what I want, and spiritually maturity eventually will ask, who is this me that is constantly wanting? Dhruva went looking for something external. His search transformed him internally. This reflects an essential spiritual principle. The object we begin by seeking may eventually lead us to investigate the seeker himself. Mind-bender thought. You may begin your journey searching for a crown and discover that the real kingdom was within you. Story 3. King Bharata and the deer. Beware of subtle attachment. King Bharata renounced his kingdom and withdrew into spiritual life. He had given up wealth, power and royal pleasures. One day, he rescued a helpless young deer. Compassion gradually became attachment. His thoughts became increasingly occupied with the deer. According to the Bhagavatam narrative, this intense attachment influenced the state of his mind at death, and he was subsequently born as a deer while retaining awareness of his previous life. Later, at Jadabharata, he lived with profound detachment and wisdom. Upanishadic connection. This story makes an important distinction. Renunciation is not merely leaving possessions. A person may leave the palace while still carrying attachment within the mind. Another person may live amidst responsibilities without being inwardly possessed by them. The deeper bondage is therefore not necessarily the object. It is our identification to the object. Mind-bender thought. Freedom does not necessarily mean possessing nothing. Freedom means that nothing possesses your mind. The common thread Prahlada teaches, the divine is not limited by place. Dhruva teaches, desire can mature into spiritual seeking, and Bharata teaches, Even subtle attachment can bind the mind, and the Upanishads take us towards the final inquiry: who is the seeker? We find much of life saying, I want, I fear, I achieved, I failed, I lost, I found. Quietly we'll ask, who is this I? Follow that question deeply enough, and spirituality ceases to be merely a collection of beliefs. It becomes an investigation of consciousness itself. The essence, the Vedas gives us a vast sacred heritage. The Upanishads turn the lamp inward. The Bhagavatam gives profound truths, life through stories. Ritual can purify the mind, devotion can soften the heart, wisdom can remove ignorance, inquiry can reveal the self, and finally the seeker begins to understand what I was searching for outside was never entirely separate from the consciousness through which I was searching. From who I am to I am, from separation to unity, from information to realization, from seeking truth to living truth. उपनिषद हिंदी, स्वयं को जानने की सुंदर यात्रा। उपनिषद का अर्थ उपनिषद संस्कृत शब्द है। उप पास नी नम्रता और एकाग्रता से, शत यानी बैठना। सरल अर्थ है गुरु के पास बैठकर आत्मज्ञान प्राप्त करना, लेकिन उसका आध्यात्मिक अर्थ बहुत गहरा है। गुरु शिष्य को केवल संसार का ज्ञान नहीं होता, वह उसे अपने भीतर देखने की दिशा देता है। मैं कौन हूँ? क्या मैं केवल यह शरीर हूँ? क्या मैं मन हूँ? क्या मैं अपने विचार हूँ? इन सब को जानने वाला कौन है? यही से आत्मखोज आरंभ होती है। उपनिषदों की उत्पत्ति। उपनिषद भारत की प्राचीन वैदिक ज्ञान परंपरा का महत्वपूर्ण भाग है। 4 वेद है, ऋग्वेद, सामवेद, यजुर्वेद और अथर्ववेद। वैदिक ज्ञान की यात्रा को सरल रूप में ऐसे समझ सकते हैं: संहिता, ब्राह्मण, अरण्यक और उपनिषद। वेदों में मंत्र, प्रार्थना, यज्ञ और जीवन का ज्ञान मिलता है। अरण्यकों में चिंतन अधिक गहरा होता है और उपनिषद मनुष्य को उसके अपने अंदर की ओर ले जाता है। पहले प्रश्न था, मुझे कौन सा कर्म करना चाहिए? उपनिषद ने पूछा, यह कर्म करने वाला मैं कौन है? इसीलिए उपनिषदों को वेदांत से जोड़ा जाता है। वेद अंत, वेदों का अंतिम गहन और आत्मज्ञान की ओर ले जाने वाला दर्शन। उपनिषदों की मुख्य शिक्षा: ब्रह्म परम सत्य है, समस्त अस्तित्व का आधार है। नाम बदलते हैं, रूप बदलते हैं, शरीर बदलता है, विचार और भावनाएं भी बदलती है, पर इन सभी परिवर्तनों के पीछे सत्य क्या है? उपनिषद उसी सत्य को जानने की दिशा दिखाते हैं। आत्मा। उपनिषद पूछते हैं, मैं कौन हूँ? शरीर बदल रहा है, विचार आते जाते हैं, भावनाएं बदलती रहती है, सुख और दुख भी स्थायी नहीं है। लेकिन इन सभी परिवर्तनों को जानने वाला कौन है? उपनिषद हमें उस गहरे आत्मस्वरूप की ओर ले जाते हैं। आत्मा और ब्रह्म। उपनिषदों का महान संदेश है कि हमारे भीतर का वास्तविक आत्मस्वरूप परम सत्य से मूलतः अलग नहीं है। इसीलिए महावाक्य कहते हैं, तत्वमसि, वह तुम हो। अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, मैं ब्रह्म हूँ। प्रज्ञानम ब्रह्म, चेतना ही ब्रह्म है। इसका अर्थ अहंकार से यह कहना नहीं है कि मैं ही भगवान हूँ। इसका अर्थ है नाम, रूप और अहंकार के पीछे जो मेरा वास्तविक स्वरूप है वह परम सत्य से अलग नहीं है। नेति नेति। बृहदारण्यक उपनिषद का सुंदर सूत्र है, नेति नेति, यह नहीं, यह भी नहीं। मैं केवल शरीर नहीं, मैं केवल विचार नहीं, मैं केवल भावना नहीं, मैं केवल अपनी संपत्ति, पद या पहचान नहीं, तो फिर मैं कौन हूँ? उपनिषद कहते हैं कि इसका अंतिम उत्तर केवल शब्दों से नहीं मिलता, उसे स्वयं अनुभव करना होता है। भागवत की 3 सुंदर कथाएं। श्रीमद् भागवत स्वयं उपनिषद नहीं बल्कि पुराण है, फिर भी उसकी अनेक कथाएं उपनिषदों के आत्मज्ञान, भक्ति, वैराग्य और परमात्मा की सर्वव्यापकता जैसे सत्य बहुत सरलता से समझाती है। प्रहलाद और हिरण्यकशिपु। भगवान कहाँ है? हिरण्यकशिपु ने प्रहलाद से पूछा, यदि तुम्हारा विष्णु हर जगह है तो क्या वह इस खंबे में भी है? प्रहलाद ने कहा, हाँ। हिरण्यकशिपु ने खंबे पर प्रहार किया और उसमें से नरसिंह भगवान प्रकट हुए। प्रहलाद यहाँ अटूट श्रद्धा का प्रतीक है, हिरण्यकशिपु अहंकार का प्रतीक है और नरसिंह उस दिव्य सत्य का प्रतीक है जो अहंकार की सीमाओं को तोड़ देता है। संदेश: परमात्मा केवल मंदिर में नहीं, वह पूरी सृष्टि में है। इसीलिए प्रश्न केवल यह नहीं, भगवान कहाँ है? एक और गहरा प्रश्न है, भगवान कहाँ नहीं है? ध्रुव की कथा, इच्छा से ईश्वर तक। बालक ध्रुव को अपमान और दुख मिला। वह संसार में बहुत ऊंचा स्थान पाना चाहता था। वह वन में गया और नारद मुनि के मार्गदर्शन में साधना करने लगा। अंततः भगवान विष्णु उसके सामने प्रकट हुए, लेकिन तब तक ध्रुव के भीतर परिवर्तन हो चुका था। जिस सांसारिक सम्मान को पाने के लिए उसने यात्रा आरंभ की थी, वह अब उसे छोटा लगने लगा। उसकी भक्ति इच्छा और आंतरिक संतोष में बदल गई थी। संदेश, हम कभी कभी भगवान के पास अपनी इच्छा पूरी करवाने जाते हैं, लेकिन सच्ची आध्यात्मिक यात्रा में प्रश्न बदल जाता है, मुझे क्या मिलेगा से मैं वास्तव में कौन हूँ। ध्रुव बाहर राज्य खोजने निकला था, उसे अपने भीतर की अमूल्य संपत्ति मिल गई। राजा भरत और हिरण, आसक्ति का सूक्ष्म बंधन। राजा भरत ने अपना राज्य और वैभव छोड़ दिया। वह साधना करने वन में रहने लगा। एक दिन उसने एक छोटे हिरण को बचाया। धीरे धीरे उसकी करुणा आसक्ति में बदल गई। उसका मन हर समय हिरण में लगा रहने लगा। भागवत की कथा के अनुसार मृत्यु के समय भी उसका ध्यान हिरण पर था और अगले जन्म में वह हिरण बना। आगे चलकर जड़ भरत के रूप में उसने गहरे वैराग्य और ज्ञान का जीवन जिया। संदेश, केवल वस्तुओं को छोड़ देना वैराग्य नहीं है, मन की आसक्ति का छूटना सच्चा वैराग्य है। कुछ भी पास न होना स्वतंत्रता नहीं, सब कुछ पास होते हुए भी मन किसी का गुलाम न बने, यही सच्ची स्वतंत्रता है। उपनिषदों का सार, प्रहलाद सिखाता है परमात्मा सर्वत्र है। ध्रुव सिखाता है इच्छा की यात्रा भक्ति में बदल सकती है। भरत सिखाता है आसक्ति बहुत सूक्ष्म हो सकती है। और उपनिषद अंत में हमें स्वयं से पूछना सिखाते हैं, पूछने वाला यह मैं कौन है। वेद हमें ज्ञान देते हैं, उपनिषद हमें अपने भीतर ले जाते हैं। भागवत की कथाएं उसी सत्य को प्रेम, भक्ति और जीवन के अनुभवों से समझाती है। बाहर से भीतर की ओर, अज्ञान से ज्ञान की ओर, अहंकार से आत्मा की ओर, खोज से आत्मबोध की ओर, यही उपनिषदों की सुंदर यात्रा है। A wonderful story from the Upanishad. King Chitraketu, sage Angiras and Narada, the child who brought both joy and sorrow. This profound story from the Srimad Bhagavatam is about King Chitraketu, his queen Kritadyuti, their son sage Angiras and Devrishi Narad. It teaches us about karma, attachment, relationships, rebirth and the eternal nature of the self. The king's deep sorrow. King Chitraketu was a powerful and prosperous king. He had wealth, a large kingdom, and many queens, yet his heart remained unhappy because he had no child. One day, the great sage Angiras Rishi came to his palace. The king welcomed him with great respect. Angiras understood the hidden sorrow in the king's heart. The king said, I have everything, but I have no son. Without a child, all my wealth and happiness seem incomplete. Angiras knew that what the king desired would not bring only happiness. Nevertheless, through a sacred ritual, he blessed the king's chief queen so that she would have a son. But Angiras gave the king a significant warning. This son will become the cause of both your joy and your sorrow. The king was so eager for a child that he did not understand the depth of these words. The birth of the prince. In time, the queen gave birth to a beautiful son. The palace was filled with celebrations. King Chitraketu was overwhelmed with happiness. He loved the child deeply. His attention naturally turned towards the mother of his son and the young prince. But the king's other queens became very jealous. Their jealousy slowly turned into anger and bitterness. Finally, they committed a terrible act. They poisoned the little prince and the child died. Happiness became sorrow. The queen mother found her little son lying motionless and dead. Her happiness collapsed into unbearable grief. King Chitraketu rushed to the child. The same son whose birth had brought him extraordinary happiness had now become the cause of his deepest sorrow. The words of Angirasa had come true. He will bring you both joy and sorrow. The king and the queen cried beside their son's body. At this moment, sage Angirasa returned accompanied by Devrishi Narad. The great teachings of Angiras and Narada. The sages did not tell the parents that their love was meaningless. Instead, they asked them to look beyond their immediate grief. They taught that the embodied beings travel according to karma, taking different births and entering different relationships. In one birth, someone may be a child, in another relationship, another life, and another circumstance. The connection may be entirely different. Bodies meet, relationships form, time passes, and eventually bodies separate. But the Atman, the self, is deeper than these temporary identities. Narada calls the child back. To awaken the king and the queen to this truth, Narada used the spiritual power and called the departed consciousness of the child to speak. The parents were overwhelmed. They wanted their beloved son to return, but the response attributed to the departed being contains the heart of the teaching. In which birth were these people my father and mother? Through countless births, it had experienced many relationships. Who then should permanently be called my mother, my father, my son, my relative? The parents suddenly faced a truth much greater than their personal grief. Their child was not simply something they owned, he was a being traveler through his own karmic journey. For a short period, their paths had crossed. They had loved him, he had brought them immense joy, and his departure had brought immense sorrow. But the self had not been destroyed merely because the body had died. Why did Angiras warn the king? Angiras understood something that Chitraketu initially could not. The king believed, if I get a son, I will finally become happy. Angiras knew that whenever I enter happiness depends upon something temporary, the possibility of sorrow accompanies it. This does not mean that parents should not love their children. It teaches a more subtle lesson. Love deeply but understand the nature of life. Love need not become possession. Care need not become bondage. Relationships can be sacred without believing that another being belongs to us forever. Karma and rebirth. The story presents life as a part of a much larger journey. Birth is an arrival into one set of circumstances. Death is a departure from these circumstances, and karma continues its movement. Therefore, the Bhagavatam will ask us to look beyond "this is mine" towards a deeper understanding. For this part of life's journey, we have been brought together. Parents become guardians, children become previous travelers entrusted to their care. Husband, wife, family, and friends accompany one another for different lengths of time. The spiritual teaching is not to stop loving them, it is to transform attachment into conscious love. The transformation of King Chitraketu. The experience changed Chitraketu. His greatest sorrow became the doorway to spiritual wisdom. Narada instructed him in spiritual knowledge and devotion. The king, who had once believed that his happiness depended upon having a son, began seeking something that could not be taken away by changing circumstances. His search moved from possession to understanding, from attachment to awareness, from worldly dependence to spiritual wisdom. The deeper meaning, Angiras said the child would bring both happiness and sorrow. Why? Because the child himself was not happiness nor sorrow. The king's attachment created both experiences. When his desire was fulfilled, my son has come, there was tremendous happiness. When circumstances changed, my son has gone, there was tremendous sorrow and pain. The same object of attachment appeared first as joy and later as grief. That is why spiritual wisdom asks us to discover a deeper source of peace. Mind-bender spiritual reflection. Life does not tell us not to love. It teaches us how to love without possessing. A child is not our property. A husband or wife is not our property. No person truly belongs to another person. We meet, we love, we care, we learn. And one day, according to the movement of life, we separate. Relationships are precious chapters of life's journey, but the Atma is greater than any single chapter. The body says, "This is my child." Attachment says, "Never leave me." Wisdom says, "I love you. Therefore, I will cherish the time given to us without forgetting that both of us belong to the greater journey of life." King Chitraketu asked life for a child. Life gave him a son. The son gave him happiness. His departure gave him sorrow. And through both happiness and sorrow, the sages finally gave him wisdom. Sometimes what we ask from life gives us happiness. Sometimes its loss gives us pain. But if both awaken us to truth, both can become our teachers. राजा चित्रकेतु, अंगिरा ऋषि और नारद, सुख से शोक और शोक से आत्मज्ञान की ओर। श्रीमद् भागवत की राजा चित्रकेतु की कथा हमें बहुत सरलता से कर्म, पुनर्जन्म, प्रेम, आसक्ति और आत्मा के शाश्वत स्वरूप की ओर ले जाती है। राजा की अधूरी इच्छा। राजा चित्रकेतु के पास विशाल राज्य, धन और वैभव था। फिर भी उसके मन में एक गहरा दुख था। उसकी कोई संतान नहीं थी। एक दिन महान अंगिरा ऋषि उसके महल में आए। ऋषि ने राजा के मन की पीड़ा जान ली। राजा ने कहा, मेरे पास सब कुछ है लेकिन पुत्र नहीं, इसीलिए मुझे अपना सारा सुख अधूरा लगता है। अंगिरा ऋषि जानते थे कि प्रत्येक इच्छा की पूर्ति केवल सुख ही नहीं लाती। उन्होंने यज्ञ किया और रानी को पुत्र प्राप्ति का आशीर्वाद दिया, लेकिन साथ ही राजा से कहा, यह पुत्र तुम्हारे लिए सुख का भी कारण बनेगा और शोक का भी। उस समय राजा पुत्र पाने की इच्छा में इतना डूबा था कि वह इन शब्दों की गहराई नहीं समझ पाया। पुत्र का जन्म। कुछ समय बाद एक सुंदर पुत्र का जन्म हुआ। पूरा महल आनंद से भर गया। राजा का मन अपने पुत्र में रम गया, लेकिन दूसरी रानियों के मन में ईर्ष्या पैदा हुई। दुर्भाग्य से ईर्ष्या ने भयानक रूप लिया और बालक को विष दे दिया गया। राजपुत्र की मृत्यु हो गई। जिस पुत्र ने जन्म लेकर राजा को अपार सुख दिया था, उसी के जाने से गहरे शोक में राजा डूब गया। अंगिरा ऋषि के शब्द सत्य हुए। यह पुत्र सुख भी देगा और शोक भी। नारद और अंगिरा ऋषि का ज्ञान। राजा और रानी अपने पुत्र के शरीर के पास रो रहे थे। तभी अंगिरा ऋषि और देवऋषि नारद वहां आ गए। उन्होंने राजा को जीवन का गहरा सत्य समझाया। शरीर जन्म लेता है और एक दिन शरीर छूट जाता है, पर आत्मा केवल शरीर तक सीमित नहीं है। कर्म के अनुसार जीव की यात्रा आगे बढ़ती रहती है। एक जन्म में जो हमारा पुत्र है, किसी दूसरे जन्म में उसका संबंध कुछ और हो सकता है। जीवन में हम मिलते हैं, रिश्ते बनते हैं, प्रेम करते हैं, कुछ समय साथ चलते हैं और समय आने पर रास्ते अलग हो जाते हैं। मैं किस जन्म का पुत्र हूँ? नारद ने अपने योग बल से बालक के जीव चैतन्य को पुकारा। माता पिता चाहते थे कि उनका पुत्र वापस आ जाए, पर उस जीव ने एक बहुत गहरा प्रश्न पूछा, किस जन्म में ये मेरे माता पिता थे? अनेक जन्मों की यात्रा में कितने संबंध बने और समाप्त हुए, फिर सदा के लिए कौन किसका है? इस प्रश्न ने राजा के शोक में ज्ञान का दीपक जला दिया। उपनिषद की ओर ले जाने वाला प्रश्न। उपनिषद पूछते हैं, मैं कौन हूँ? क्या मैं केवल शरीर हूँ? क्या मैं मेरा नाम हूँ? क्या मैं मेरे रिश्ते हूँ? क्या मैं मेरी संपत्ति हूँ? या इन सब को जानने वाली चेतना हूँ? शरीर कहता है यह मेरा पुत्र है। मन कहता है यह मेरे पास रहे। आसक्ति कहती है इसके बिना मैं सुखी नहीं रह सकता। ज्ञान कहता है प्रेम करो पर अधिकार मत बनाओ। प्रेम और आसक्ति। इस कथा का अर्थ प्रेम छोड़ देना नहीं है। माता पिता का अपने बच्चों से प्रेम अत्यंत सुंदर और पवित्र है, लेकिन प्रेम जब यह केवल मेरा है बन जाता है, तब उसमें आसक्ति जुट जाती है। आत्मज्ञान प्रेम को कम नहीं करता, वह प्रेम को और विशाल बनाता है। प्रेम बांधना नहीं है, प्रेम संभालना है, स्वीकार करना है और मुक्त रखना है। कर्म और पुनर्जीवन। हर जीव की अपनी कर्म यात्रा है। माता पिता बच्चे को जन्म देते हैं, उसे प्रेम, संस्कार और सुरक्षा भी देते हैं, लेकिन उस जीव की आत्मिक यात्रा उसकी अपनी है। इसीलिए रिश्तों को छोड़ना नहीं है, उन्हें पूरे प्रेम से जीना है। साथ ही यह समझना है हम एक दूसरे के मालिक नहीं, हम जीवन यात्रा के सहयात्री है। चित्रकेतु का परिवर्तन। पहले सोचता था पुत्र मिल जाएगा तो मैं सुखी हो जाऊंगा। पुत्र मिला, सुख आया। पुत्र चला गया, शोक आया। लेकिन शोक के भीतर से एक नई ज्योति प्रकट हुई, आत्मज्ञान। नारद के मार्गदर्शन से राजा की यात्रा बाहरी सुख से भीतर के सत्य की ओर मुड़ गई। कथा का सार। जन्म एक मिलन है, मृत्यु शरीर का वियोग है, रिश्ते जीवन यात्रा के सुंदर संगम है, कर्म यात्रा को आगे ले जाता है और आत्मा इन सब के पीछे का गहरा सत्य है। जीवन हमें प्रेम छोड़ना नहीं सिखाता, वह अपनी आसक्ति से ऊपर उठकर प्रेम करना सिखाता है। सुख आए उसे स्वीकार करो, दुख आए उससे सीखो। रिश्ते मिले उन्हें प्रेम से संभालो, समय बदले उसे स्वीकार करो और हर अनुभव के बीच स्वयं से पूछो, मैं वास्तव में कौन हूँ? यही प्रश्न धीरे धीरे बाहरी यात्रा को आत्म यात्रा बना देता है। सुख और दुख आते जाते रहते हैं, पर उन्हें जानने वाली चेतना शांत रहती है। उस चेतना को पहचानना ही आत्मज्ञान की ओर यात्रा है।
उपनिषद, स्वतःला जाणण्याचा सुंदर मार्ग. उपनिषद म्हणजे काय? उपनिषद हा संस्कृत शब्द आहे. उप म्हणजे जवळ, नि म्हणजे नम्रतेने, एकाग्रतेने, शद म्हणजे बसणे. याचा साधा अर्थ गुरुच्या जवळ बसून आत्मज्ञान प्राप्त करणे. पण उपनिषदांचा खरा अर्थ आणखी सुंदर आहे. गुरु शिष्याला केवळ जगाचं ज्ञान देत नाही, तो त्याला स्वतःकडे पाहायला शिकवतो. मी कोण आहे? मी फक्त हा देह आहे का? मी मन आहे का? माझे विचार म्हणजेच मी आहे का? या सर्वांना जाणणारं कोण आहे? या प्रश्नातून सुरू होतो आत्मशोध. उपनिषदांचा उगम. उपनिषदे ही प्राचीन वैदिक ज्ञानपरंपरेचा महत्त्वाचा भाग आहेत. 4 वेद आहेत: ऋग्वेद, सामवेद, यजुर्वेद आणि अथर्ववेद. वैदिक ज्ञानाचा प्रवास साधारणपणे असा समजता येईल: संहिता, ब्राह्मण, आरण्यक, उपनिषद. वेदांमध्ये प्रार्थना, मंत्र, यज्ञ आणि जीवनाविषयीचं ज्ञान आहे. आरण्यकांमध्ये चिंतन अधिक खोल होते आणि उपनिषदे माणसाला स्वतःच्या अंतरंगात घेऊन जातात. बाहेरचा प्रश्न होता, मी कोणते कर्म करावे? उपनिषदांचा प्रश्न झाला, हे कर्म करणारा मी कोण आहे? उपनिषदांना वेदांत असेही म्हटले जाते. वेद अधिक अंत म्हणजे वेदांचे अंतिम आणि गहन ज्ञान. उपनिषदांची मुख्य शिकवण. ब्रह्म. ब्रह्म म्हणजे सर्व अस्तित्वामागील परमसत्य. नावे बदलतात, रूपे बदलतात, देह बदलतो, विचार बदलतात, परिस्थिती बदलते, पण या सर्व बदलांना जाणणारे मूलभूत सत्य कोणते? उपनिषदे आपल्याला त्या सत्याचा शोध घ्यायला सांगतात. आत्मा. उपनिषदांचा अत्यंत महत्त्वाचा प्रश्न आहे. मी कोण? देह बदलतो, मनातले विचार क्षणोक्षणी बदलतात, भावना येतात आणि जातात, सुखदुःख येते आणि जाते, पण हे सर्व घडत आहे याची जाणीव कोणाला आहे? उपनिषदे त्या अंतरंगातील सत्याला आत्मा म्हणतात. आत्मा आणि ब्रह्म. उपनिषदांचे महान सत्य आहे की आत्मा आणि सत्य यांच्यात मूलभूत वेगळेपणा नाही. म्हणूनच महावाक्ये सांगतात, तत्वमसी, ते तू आहेस. अहम ब्रह्मास्मी, मी ब्रह्म आहे. प्रज्ञानम ब्रह्म, चैतन्य हेच ब्रह्म आहे. याचा अर्थ अहंकाराने मीच देव आहे असे म्हणणे नव्हे. त्याचा अर्थ आहे माझ्या नावाच्या, रूपाच्या आणि अहंकाराच्या पलीकडे असलेले माझे खरे स्वरूप त्या परमसत्यापासून वेगळे नाही. अज्ञानातून ज्ञानाकडे. आपण म्हणतो, माझा देह, माझे मन, माझे विचार, माझे घर, माझे यश, माझे दुःख. पण उपनिषद विचारते, हे माझे म्हणणारा कोण? याच प्रश्नातून आत्मज्ञानाची सुरुवात होते. अज्ञान दूर झाले की सत्य निर्माण करावे लागत नाही. ते आधीपासूनच असते, फक्त त्याची ओळख होते. नेती नेती. बृहदारण्यक उपनिषदातील एक सुंदर विचार आहे. नेती नेती. हे नाही, हेही नाही. मी फक्त देह नाही, मी फक्त विचार नाही, मी फक्त भावना नाही, मी फक्त माझी ओळख, पद किंवा संपत्ती नाही. मग मी कोण? या प्रश्नाचे उत्तर केवळ शब्दात नाही, ते स्वतःच्या अनुभवातून जाणायचे आहे. भागवतातील 3 सुंदर कथा. श्रीमद भागवत हे उपनिषद नाही, ते पुराण आहे. परंतु त्यातील अनेक कथा उपनिषदातील आत्मज्ञान, भक्ती, वैराग्य आणि परमात्म्याच्या सर्वव्यापकतेचा अर्थ अतिशय सुंदर रीतीने समजावतात. प्रल्हाद आणि हिरण्यकश्यपू. देव कुठे आहे? हिरण्यकश्यपूने प्रल्हादाला विचारले. तुझा विष्णू सर्वत्र आहे, तर या खांबातही आहे का? प्रल्हाद शांतपणे म्हणाला, हो, हिरण्यकश्यपूने खांबावर प्रहार केला आणि त्यातून नरसिंह प्रकट झाले. या कथेत प्रल्हाद म्हणजे अढळ श्रद्धा, हिरण्यकश्यपू म्हणजे अहंकार आणि नरसिंह म्हणजे अहंकाराच्या मर्यादा तोडणारे दैवी सत्य. संदेश: परमात्मा फक्त मंदिरात नाही, तो संपूर्ण सृष्टीत आहे. देव कुठे आहे यापेक्षा सुंदर प्रश्न आहे, देव कुठे नाही. ध्रुवाची कथा. इच्छेपासून ईश्वराकडे लहान ध्रुवाला अपमान आणि दुःख सहन करावे लागले. त्याला मोठे स्थान आणि सन्मान मिळवायचा होता. तो वनात गेला आणि नारद मुनींच्या मार्गदर्शनाखाली कठोर साधना केली. शेवटी भगवान विष्णू त्याच्यासमोर प्रकट झाले. पण तेव्हा ध्रुवाच्या मनात बदल झाला होता. ज्याच्यासाठी तो निघाला होता ते बाहेरचे मोठेपण त्याला आता लहान वाटू लागले. त्याच्या इच्छेचे रूपांतर भक्तीत आणि आत्मिक समाधानात झाले. संदेश: मनुष्य अनेकदा काहीतरी मिळवण्यासाठी देवाकडे जातो, पण खरी भक्ती जागी झाली की तो विचारतो, मला काय मिळेल यापेक्षा मी खरोखर कोण आहे. ध्रुव राज्य शोधायला निघाला, पण त्याला स्वतःच्या अंतरंगातील अमूल्य संपत्ती सापडली. राजा भरत आणि हरिण. आसक्तीचे सूक्ष्म बंधन. राजा भरताने राज्य, वैभव आणि सुखांचा त्याग केला. तो साधनेसाठी वनात राहू लागला. एके दिवशी त्याने एका छोट्या हरणाला वाचवले. त्याची दया हळूहळू आसक्तीत बदलली. त्याचं मन सतत त्या हरणात गुंतू लागलं. भागवतातील कथेनुसार मृत्यूसमयीही त्याचे मन हरणातच गुंतलेले होते आणि पुढे त्याला हरणाचा जन्म मिळाला. नंतर जडभरत म्हणून त्याने अत्यंत वैराग्यपूर्ण जीवन जगले. संदेश: वस्तू सोडणे म्हणजे वैराग्य नाही, मनातील आसक्ती सुटणे हे खरे वैराग्य. सुंदर विचार. काहीही जवळ नसणे म्हणजे स्वातंत्र्य नाही, सर्व काही जवळ असूनही मन कशाचेही गुलाम नसणे हे खरे स्वातंत्र्य. उपनिषदांचा सार. प्रल्हाद शिकवतो, परमात्मा सर्वत्र आहे. ध्रुव शिकवतो, इच्छेचा प्रवास भक्तीकडे वळू शकतो. भरत शिकवतो, आसक्ती अतिशय सूक्ष्म असते. आणि उपनिषद शेवटी विचारते, शोध घेणारा हा मी कोण. वेद आपल्याला ज्ञान देतात, उपनिषदे आपल्याला स्वतःकडे वळवतात. भागवतातील कथा त्या ज्ञानाला प्रेम, भक्ती आणि अनुभवाची भाषा देतात. बाहेरच्या जगाकडून अंतरंगाकडे, अज्ञानाकडून ज्ञानाकडे, अहंकाराकडून आत्म्याकडे, शोधाकडून आत्मबोधाकडे हाच उपनिषदांचा सुंदर प्रवास आहे. राजा चित्रकेतू, अंगिरा ऋषी आणि नारद. आनंदातून शोकाकडे आणि शोकातून आत्मज्ञानाकडे. श्रीमद भागवतातील राजा चित्रकेतूची कथा अतिशय सुंदर आणि गहन आहे. ती आपल्याला कर्म, पुनर्जन्म, प्रेम, आसक्ती आणि आत्म्याचे शाश्वत स्वरूप समजावते. राजाची एक अपूर्ण इच्छा. राजा चित्रकेतू सामर्थ्यवान आणि संपन्न होता. त्याच्याकडे राज्य, वैभव आणि अनेक राण्या होत्या. तरीही त्याच्या मनात एक दुःख होते, त्याला पुत्र नव्हता. एकदा महान अंगिरा ऋषी राजाच्या महालात आले. राजाने त्यांचे आदराने स्वागत केले. ऋषींनी राजाच्या मनातील दुःख ओळखले. राजा म्हणाला, माझ्याकडे सर्व काही आहे, पण पुत्र नाही. त्यामुळे माझे सर्व सुख मला अपूर्ण वाटते. अंगिरा ऋषींना माहीत होते की प्रत्येक इच्छा पूर्ण झाली म्हणजेच केवळ आनंद मिळतो असे नाही. त्यांनी यज्ञ करून राणी कृतत्युतीला पुत्रप्राप्तीचा आशीर्वाद दिला. पण त्याचवेळी त्यांनी राजाला एक महत्त्वाची गोष्ट सांगितली, हा पुत्र तुला आनंदही देईल आणि शोकही देईल. पुत्राच्या इच्छेने व्याकुळ झालेल्या राजाला त्या शब्दांचा गूढ अर्थ तेव्हा समजला नाही. पुत्र जन्माचा आनंद. काही काळाने राणीला सुंदर पुत्र झाला. संपूर्ण राजवाडा आनंदाने भरून गेला. राजाचे सारे प्रेम आणि लक्ष त्या बालकाकडे वळले. पण इतर राण्यांच्या मनात मत्सर निर्माण झाला. दुर्दैवाने त्या मत्सराने भयंकर रूप घेतले आणि त्यांनी बालकाला विष दिले. राजपुत्राचा मृत्यू झाला. ज्या पुत्राच्या जन्माने राजाला अपार आनंद दिला होता, त्याच पुत्राच्या जाण्याने त्याला असह्य दुःख झाले. अंगिरा ऋषींचे शब्द सत्य ठरले. हा पुत्र आनंद आणि शोक दोन्हीचे कारण होईल. नारद आणि अंगिरा ऋषींचे आत्मज्ञान. राजा आणि राणी आपल्या पुत्राच्या मृतदेहाजवळ शोक करत असताना अंगिरा ऋषी आणि देवर्षी नारद तिथे आले. त्यांनी राजाला जीवनाचे गहन सत्य समजावले. देह जन्म घेतो आणि देह नष्ट होतो, पण आत्मा केवळ देहापुरता मर्यादित नाही. कर्मानुसार जीवाचा प्रवास पुढे चालू राहतो. एका जन्मात तो पुत्र आहे, दुसऱ्या जन्मात त्याचे नाते वेगळे असू शकते. जीवनाच्या प्रवासात जीव एकमेकांना भेटतात, काही काळ एकत्र राहतात, नाती निर्माण होतात, प्रेम निर्माण होतं आणि वेळ आली की मार्ग पुन्हा वेगळे होतात. मी कोणाचा पुत्र? नारदांनी आपल्या योग सामर्थ्याने त्या बालकाच्या जीव चैतन्याला बोलावले. दुःखी माता पित्यांना वाटले आमचा पुत्र पुन्हा आमच्याकडे यावा. परंतु त्या जीवाने अत्यंत गहन प्रश्न विचारला, कोणत्या जन्मातील हे माझे माता पिता आहेत? अनेक जन्मांच्या प्रवासात अनेक नाती आली आणि गेली, मग कायमचे कोण कोणाचे? या एका प्रश्नाने राजाच्या मनातील अंधारात ज्ञानाचा प्रकाश पडला. उपनिषदांचा सुंदर स्पर्श. उपनिषद आपल्याला विचारते, मी कोण? देह, नाव, नाते, पद, संपत्ती, की या सगळ्यांच्या पलीकडे असलेले आत्मचैतन्य? देह म्हणतो, हा माझा पुत्र. मन म्हणते, तो माझ्याजवळच राहावा. आसक्ती म्हणते, त्याच्याशिवाय मी सुखी होऊ शकत नाही. पण आत्मज्ञान शांतपणे सांगते, प्रेम कर, पण मालकी ठेवू नकोस. या कथेचा अर्थ प्रेम आणि आसक्तीतील फरक. या कथेचा अर्थ असा नाही की आईवडिलांनी मुलांवर प्रेम करू नये. उलट प्रेम हे जीवनाचे सौंदर्य आहे. पण प्रेम जेव्हा हा माझाच आहे या भावनेत अडकते, तेव्हा त्यातून आसक्ती निर्माण होते. उपनिषदांचे ज्ञान प्रेम कमी करत नाही, ते प्रेम अधिक विशाल करते. प्रेम म्हणजे धरून ठेवणे नव्हे. प्रेम म्हणजे जपणे, स्वीकारणे आणि मुक्त ठेवणे. कर्म आणि पुनर्जन्म. या कथेनुसार प्रत्येक जीवाचा स्वतःचा कर्मप्रवास असतो. आईवडील मुलाला जन्म देतात, प्रेम देतात, संस्कार देतात आणि त्याची काळजी घेतात. पण त्या जीवाचा अंतरंग प्रवास त्याचा स्वतःचा असतो. म्हणून नाती नाकारायची नाहीत, त्यांना प्रेमाने जगायचे आहे. पण त्यामागचे सत्यही जाणायचे आहे. आपण एकमेकांचे मालक नाही, आपण एकमेकांच्या जीवन प्रवासातील सहप्रवासी आहोत. राजा चित्रकेतूचे परिवर्तन. पुत्रप्राप्तीपूर्वी राजा म्हणत होता, मला पुत्र मिळाला तर मी सुखी होईन. पुत्र मिळाला आणि आनंद झाला. पुत्र गेला आणि दुःख झाले. पण त्या दुःखातून राजाला अशी गोष्ट मिळाली जी त्याने मागितलीही नव्हती, आत्मज्ञान. नारदांच्या मार्गदर्शनाने त्याचा प्रवास बाह्य सुखाकडून अंतर्मुख ज्ञानाकडे वळला. कथेचे सार. जन्म म्हणजे भेट, मृत्यू म्हणजे केवळ देहाचा वियोग, नाती म्हणजे जीवनाच्या प्रवासातील सुंदर संगम, कर्म म्हणजे पुढे चालणारा प्रवास आणि आत्मा या सर्वांपेक्षा गहन सत्य. म्हणून जीवन आपल्याला प्रेम सोडायला शिकवत नाही, जीवन आपल्याला आसक्तीशिवाय प्रेम करायला शिकवते. आनंद आला त्याचा स्वीकार करा, दुःख आले त्यातून शिका, नाती आली प्रेमाने जपा, वेळ बदलली स्वीकारा आणि प्रत्येक अनुभवात स्वतःला विचारा, मी खरंच कोण? याच प्रश्नातून बाहेरचा प्रवास हळूहळू आत्मप्रवास बनतो. आनंद आणि दुःख दोन्ही येतात आणि जातात, पण त्यांना जाणणारे चैतन्य शांतपणे उपस्थित असते. त्या चैतन्याची ओळख हाच आत्मज्ञानाचा प्रकाश.